All right, what is happening, everybody? Welcome, Dorian D. Booma here on Painfully Beautiful Productions with Dean of Sound for Sound. How you doing, brother?
What's going on, everybody? I'm doing a lot better now, thanks.
Yeah, we're getting some
Glad to be here.
conversation, and we got so much to cover. There's some crazy stuff that's been going on. If anybody has been watching, and there's a whole playlist. All the videos are on all the platforms: Rumble, Substack, YouTube. We're live on all of those, and we have been posting all of the work we've been doing. And we find discrepancies. We do this work, and Dean does this work on his own all the time, and they end up changing things. So we were just discussing that because I think it was the very last episode we were exposing the Church of Pederasty. Is that how they call it?
Yeah, the Church of Pederasty over here on Cat Hill.
And it's gone now. They took it off the map and just whitewashed it like that wasn't there. And then we have it on video, and so they can never take that from us. But we start exposing this stuff, and here we go, man. It's crazy. But I pass it off to you wherever you want to go. This one is titled Cape Ramano. Is that how you say it?
Cape Ramano Dome House. Yeah, we'll start there.
We'll do some updates on that, and then we just brought up the pedophile church updates, but deleted photos from Cat Hill, and then we're going to tie this into the Aleistar Crowley with mirroring and what he is. I guess he set it in motion, huh? The communications and the way that these guys use the ciphers and the three modes of communication that you've broken down before.
I wouldn't say he set it in motion. He modernized it. He was somebody who was instrumental in bringing these occult arts from like historical ages into the modern age, into what we see now and how these people act. He's definitely one of the most influential occultists in that these people worship. He was on the Beatles cover. The John Lennon's son did a whole thing with him and Jack Parsons. We've talked about that to some extent.
We did.
But he wrote a lot of different literature, and I won't lie to people. I haven't read the Book of the Law. I haven't read Magic on Theory and in Practice. But knowing that Aleistar Crowley is such an influential person to these individuals gives you an idea of where you would want to look if you wanted to know more details about specifically what he taught them. To me, it was enough to know he existed. I didn't know it need. It's just like knowing abortion is evil is enough for me. I don't need to see one happen live. I don't need to see a video of one being performed to know that it's wrong. I'm not saying that people shouldn't. It's just like I already see a lot, and there's only so much I can stomach with a lot of this shit. Pardon, but.
Oh no, man! Don't even have to worry about that. But yeah, I totally get you. It's absolutely disgusting. I just recently released another video, one of the hunting predators I did many years ago, and it was about Madonna and fried fish and all that stuff that they were doing during COVID, and the pasta and all the various words they've been telling us for the longest time, and they continue to do so. And this is a new kind of angle, the way that you break it down and expose stuff, whether it's on Google Maps or the images that they put out on their social media profiles and all this stuff. It's just like, no, I don't see anybody else doing it like this. And I just appreciate your time and you coming on, brother. And I know that it'd be nice to get more people to join. The links are going to be down below this video so that you can go and follow Dean on his own site as well. Some of this is very frustrating work. I hope people can have some grace with both of us, because we get very frustrated, especially like, people are getting upset with me with some of the videos that I put out, calling out various people. And I don't need to get into that, but it's frustrating because I want I'm trying to hold people to a standard where at least their word means something, because once we lose that, once a man can't give his word, and he doesn't stand by it, even if there's mistake or whatever, forgiveness is always there. But if he can't stand by his word, then what is he worth? And so if words become completely meaningless, then we've lost any ground or foundation to even have a communication. And so that's some of what I'm doing with exposing various things. And plus, I think various things are going to happen. And you've done some work, and I showed that. Or at least I linked to it down below. Specifically, I'll just bring it up real briefly. We're not going to get deep into it on this one because we got a lot to cover. But 7 C's, I think that people are getting upset with me, but it's like the guy didn't keep his word. I proved that.
For me, with people like 7 C's and people like Dustin Nemos and people like that other guy, whoever it was, the fat one,
DeFango.
That guy. With people like that, my main problem with them is, and always has been, they present themselves entirely false, and then they, just like with the mainstream alternative medias, you have people like Candace Owens, Joe Rogan, all of these people are using the exact same ciphers as Jeffrey Epstein and Aleister Crowley's cult. Like down to the phonetic reversal. When we broke that guy down, and the best excuse he can come up with is, oh, correlation doesn't equate to causation. Yeah, give me a fucking break. Give me a fucking break with that. And for 7Cs, it's like all of his conspiracy webs reflect at themselves, nearly all of them, to become another image. And when you start questioning how many of them do it versus how many of them don't do it, you start putting the scale to it, and you go, wow, it's starting to become a pattern of behavior where all of his images seem to do the exact same kind of thing that I talk about on my channel. And if you're not familiar, if this is your first time tuning in, the 3 primary ciphers that these people use that I try to teach on my channel, although I do it in a less composed way on my channel, I'll be upfront with you guys about that, is image reflection, like the X logo or the papal throne or the Rothschild invitation in the mirror, or, the list goes on. But that phonetic reversal, which everybody knows in the music industry, not many people are aware that this is a standard of communication these people use everywhere. And then color inversions. And when we learn to identify these 3 cipher communications and how they incorporate them into their belief system and how they use this belief system to communicate with one another, it becomes a lot easier to identify them, and it becomes enabling in a way because you're independent of the government at that point. You don't need the government to tell you who was doing this dirty shit, and you can tell a lot more than what the government's willing to give you. That's what we did with the Epstein photos when the latest batch came out, and we found so much. We found hard connections between Epstein and Saturn in the most recent photo collection. So that to me was like vindication. I said it was Saturn and Ishtar based on the temple, and sure enough, we found it. What's up, Biscuits? We'll see you soon, my dude.
Yeah, man.
I'm looking forward to that.
Excited to get the Biscuits back, and we'll do some collaborations with Dean. Oh, man, I'm super stoked. But yeah, man, are you ready for me to pull up the screen for you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Let's get started with some of this stuff, man. It's you're not going to find it anywhere else. I'm going to tell you that. And this stuff might seem like you always make the joke that you're schizo, or like you're one of the schizos online, or whatever, however you say it,
Yeah.
You have that kind of stuff because you think you're drawing conclusions that don't exist and you're making things up. But no, these are. I mean, we've been exposing it now. This is the 5th episode that I've done with Dean, and when you start seeing it, you're like, "Oh my gosh!" And it's clear today on so many levels that it's like these people just get so good at it or so effective at it. It's like sleight of hand, like a magician. People just don't see the trick. So when you start seeing the trick, you start seeing it everywhere. And that's why when Dean sees this stuff, like he's seeing things that most of us are not seeing all the time. And it psychologically is challenging at times because it's overwhelming to know that this bullshit's going on right in front of our faces. And there really isn't the justice that needs to happen on any scale. And that's what we want, is our government and law enforcement, whatever it is, to actually do their job. And we're losing any hope that they might actually do that because of the mechanisms in place. So what do? The best thing we can do right now is expose it and maybe try to come up with some answers. But for now, let's get into this shit.
So, and just to clarify, when I say things like I'm a Super Saiyan schizophrenic, it's because I tell people it's like when Eminem used to eat the insults that people would give him and he would wear them as a pride. Yeah. It's kind of like that. When I know the best thing that they can do is call me crazy. That's the only argument they have, because if they were to come out here and try to refute me and try to repeat the processes or take the information I presented and actually address it, they would not be able to. So I just sit there and go, okay, I'm a schizo. Now what are you going to say? It's, I don't care. Can you tell me I'm wrong? No, because if you were to repeat the process like a scientist should, you would find that it's correct and it's the same results every time.
Right. Now, and then you got the Secret Service that they haven't called you for a while now, but they were calling you and putting heat on you and trying to put pressure on you and making you nervous. And
yeah, they were mad because I was
stood up for yourself and they freaking pissed off.
Yeah, I was calling up senators and literally, like, I would call them up while I was on stream and I would threaten them and tell them, I know what you did. I know how you did it. When this comes out, you're going on a fucking pyre. And I would call up senators, government officials, and be upfront with them about it, because that's what this requires. This is treason at the highest level. And just to remind everybody, This is the big image right here. Every single Freemason lodge in the United States of America is a terrorist organization that is involved in child trafficking and ritual human sacrifice. There is no fucking reason why we should allow these lodges to continue to exist when they're doing this. And if the government doesn't want to get involved in it, then the public should take it into their own hands, because that's our right. Now, this is the Cape Romano Dome House. This is where I've done a lot of videos here. This is where I found them posting a naked kid. I found them posting kids behind, like, encaged off areas with hoses and buckets. There have been a lot of things that they have changed about this location, but a lot of the time they continue to reference this back rooms situation here. And I know that they're watching tonight because they were watching last night when I uploaded stuff that I found about this area, and they changed it. I was actually talking with Dorian as we got on today, and I showed him how, if you look here, there's two separate Cape Romanos. Cape Romano Islands, Cape Romano Dome House, right? And before, there were two Cape Romanos. But this one, they literally deleted it. They re-uploaded it because now it says recently viewed, but earlier tonight it didn't. They re-uploaded these two images, and then they added more. One with a kid, this one, and then I don't know what this is all about. But I haven't gotten the chance to review all of this yet. So this is just like they are actively watching my stream. And one of the things I had noted was there was a person. We're like right now, right here, if you look on the bottom right of my screen, it may be hard to see, but there's a button here that allows us to enter into this almost like a weird puzzle room. We've got the cat frowning, and this is a reference to Cat Hill. They're not happy with me because I keep talking about the pedophilia. This is the demon portal. They're letting demons through. It's all cartoonized, and they're trying to make it look like this is something some teenager could have posted, some derpy kid doing memes. But that's not the case. This is a satanic puzzle that they've left for me to decipher, to find things where things are cut off in half, or and they take things that are innocent to kind of demonize them and use them for their nefarious intent instead. This person, in fact, uploaded an image last night after I called him out on this shit in my video, caught you kid fucking keying, and he said get trolled by Big Chungus, which me and Dorian looked at. It's what, Stain? I just had it up on my docs. Hold on.
Yeah, pull that up. We already did the phonetic reversal of this, and it was crazy.
Yeah, it was stain, wash, give abortion, pushing, or give abortion. Stain, wash, give abortion. And this give abortion reference is about how they've asked me now in a variety of different ways. They want me to cast my firstborn off to Moloch. That's what they're referencing with that. It sounds crazy to say it, but when you look at it, you go, the phrase is get trolled by Big Chungus. And then we take it and we reverse it and we turn it up and we play it a little bit slower. So we're going to put it like 80. And it's stain, wash, give abortion. And it's get trolled by Big Chungus. And I'll turn it up and play it one more time just so. And that's kind of how you find out what they're doing. Because this is, again, they're leaving messages, they leave their cipher communications all over Google Maps. And when you understand the ciphers, you can actually have conversations with these people because they're not religiously allowed to come out and say things like that to me to my face. But if they make an account and they comment and the account's name is Promise W1, they're talking about the arm stance that Ishtar and Moloch both make, which is, if you're not familiar, many depictions show them doing this W, which is why it's not just M for Moloch, but W because of the arm pose that he does. And when they're saying Promise W1, they're saying promise the cult your firstborn. And that's something I've had to deal with them doing that in the past, but I've made videos about it on my Rumble. With this, though, a lot of what we have to look at is now, like, where are these locations? This one's in Darash. It's in the southernmost point in Yemen is where this one is. So now these are locations where these people are leaving little hidden games on the map, and you would never know it. You would never know that this is like, where is this? This is in the Philippines. You would have no idea that they're hiding locations out here.
What
right
even
near
is that picture? I mean, that's just like,
this is the back rooms. This is and notice how it doesn't line up right here, right?
right.
This is that kind of thing where they're it's a big puzzle where the whole room is at a slant because slanted imagery is important to them. And then it's a reference about how there's like this infinite world behind the scenes of reality that they all travel through, and they navigate the maze, the infinite maze, without the monster that roams the maze, the Minotaur or the Slender or whatever they call it now, without them actually getting killed by it. And how do they not get killed by it? Because they sacrifice children to it to appease it. That's what Epstein's temple was all about, and I've talked about the labyrinth pattern in front of the temple to that effect, but that's the reference.
And part of our conversations and communications before we did this was talking again about how they're doing everything they can to stop people from talking about Epstein, and it's very frustrating because Epstein is like, this is Epstein. Epstein is all of this shit.
Yeah.
Like not even necessarily Jeffrey. It's just the man himself, whatever. What he was involved in is still going on. This is it.
Yeah, and the government would do anything to not tell us.
Yes, the government is not telling us. They're covering it up. Dan Bongino came back, and man, he just got slaughtered in his comments, rightfully so, for being a shill for the government. Came in and told us that Epstein killed himself and did all the things and made all these promises that they got it covered, Bondi and Cash, and they're going to, bring justice and all that stuff. Man, he was in there for how long? And then he got the heck out. And now he came back and he's getting his ass handed to him in his own comment section. Now he'll be fine because the system's going to work for him. And then people have a short attention span. But it's fucking retarded that he went in there and basically was the part of trying to shut down people from talking about this. And this is creepy as fuck.
Yeah, I got banned from Dan Bongino's comment section actually specifically because I went in there and I asked him why is he using the same 3 cipher communications as Jeffrey Epstein. So definitely, they're aware of this. But this is the Black Pig of Horus. And I've talked a little bit about this. This is an image I found from a Lotno Gloma IHOP. This is a reference to ritual human sacrifice of children. But this was a little girl who I believe was abducted from a Lotno Gloma IHOP. And they had marked her face such that when this is the original. When you look at the image, there's a slight line here. Now, most people would think that's just fucking photography error. Right? You wouldn't think that somebody intentionally came in and adjusted this lip right here so that you would have a point to cut the image to see, and now it looks like she's got a black pigtail even though her hair is brown. And when you look at it, then it becomes, okay, she's got pigtails and it's a pig snout demon here with horns, and it's 8, and you got the hourglass. I talk about this one quite frequently because this is a real victim. This is the black cube of Saturn. This is the white cube from Ishtar from the Freemason trace board. This is the red infinite because they're making blood sacrifice of a little girl like this in pursuit of life everlasting. And that's what your government's covering up. That's what nobody in the media is talking about, because now most people think of Epstein and they think 14-year-olds, 16-year-olds. They don't think about babies being cannibalized out of the womb. Like that's the kind of evil we're talking about when we talk about Jeffrey Epstein. That's what it means to worship Saturn, because Saturn was the Titan of time who was known for cannibalizing his own children so that he could ascend to godhood, or he could prolong his rule, rather. And this is the most famous portrayal. Paul Joseph Watson used to put this at the end of every single one of his videos. So they know about it, but they just don't talk about it. And this is, again, a reference to the Black Pig of Horus, which is an Egyptian mythos. And it's right here on their website, I believe. Yeah, where it talks about the reason why City of Pe was given to Horus, and it's because Horus basically saw that Set was going to disguise himself as a pig to strike at Ra. So Horus warned Ra that Set would do that, and Ra rewarded him by giving him the city of pain, saying that he's going to be an eternal judge or an everlasting judge, and he would give him 2 brothers to be everlasting judges. Now, this is, again, if you're a Christian, this is a great example of why you're not allowed to be a Freemason, because these are mutually exclusive beliefs to the Christian mythos. You cannot believe that there's multiple everlasting judges. There is one, and his name is Jesus Christ. Okay, so, but this is to this day, they're not allowed to marry pig farmers. They're not allowed. They sacrifice pigs when the moon is full. This is, and that's exactly what it is, Starman. It is a betrayal of humanity. They have betrayed their race. They betrayed the human race. They betrayed their species. They betrayed God, and they believe that they will become God when the beings that they're trying to let through these demon portals that they joke about like this, but then at CERN, we all know what they're doing over there with Apollyon being out in the front. This is the goal. They think that when these things come through, people like us, the shitters, will be like, oh no, and they will rule as gods. That's what they think. So when you see something like this, most people would have no idea what they're looking at. They would not know or understand the mythos, but to a Freemason, they know exactly what that is. And that's kind of where we're at with that. And a lot of these images are some that we've seen before. Some of them are uploaded, again, more backrooms references, with these, again, about the world behind the world, a food reference. But the one that this is kind of how I branch out now that the maze is no longer viable as a method of finding them. If I come to some place like Cape Romano Dome House, and then I see a photo like this, and I realize that this is definitely Satanism, how do I know? I take a screenshot of it. I bring it over to Microsoft Paint. This image is something that they got rid of. We'll talk a bit about it later. But just for this moment, we're going to bring this together. And now you can kind of even see there's a mouth here, right? And when you move it over here, now it looks like there's a demon with eyes. And when you see that, you start going, oh, well, now look, there's a pyramid with an eyeball. And you start seeing, well, look, there's green and pink, like on the Freemason trace board, because that's about everlasting life. And how do they obtain it? But by sex with children. And these are like the horns. So then when we see that, we go, okay, well, if this person's doing devil worship, where have they been? And they've only been to 2 places. This place in Cape Romano Dome House, and then the other ones where it's over here. This is in like Indonesia, the west of Indonesia. It's kind of like Singapore, I think. And this is an elementary school I found recently, and finding this kind of stuff just really gets me angry, because this is an entire like front where they have put hidden imagery in here for their Luciferianism, where they're bragging about how this is a school that is not actually a school, but is a place where they worship Saturn. Look what you have in the back. This is not just because they're Muslim. They've got the black cube of Saturn back here. Right on the shelf.
All green and pink.
And it's all green and pink. The apples are pink. It's green and pink. And when you look over here, it's blue, yellow, green, and pink. And the windows are hiding images where there's.
Can you do the inversion of that last picture?
This one here?
Well, you could do that one too, but the one with the tree.
With the trees? Yeah, sure. Let's see. So we're going to pull this right over here. And if you go to Microsoft Paint, when you right click, there's even an invert color thing right here. So like you can see how yellow from blue, blue from yellow, green from pink, and pink from green. These are major ones they use all the time. And notice, I didn't even see this before. It's a white square tile floor, and when you invert it, it becomes black square tiles. Dang. This is a grid pattern of Saturn. I didn't even notice that before. But
yep. And
this
I forgot from Epstein Island, the inversion, understand these things. The ladder, was that Ishtar or
I'll pull up the Freemason trace board and we can do a refresher on that real quick. But
it's so important for people to just get that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you can see it's just like I said, now it's the green apple and the pink. And it just understanding that this is consistent, that it's a repeatable input-output process. So when we get to the Freemason trace board, and I apologize for people who have seen it before, but it should be spoken of a lot because it needs to be said. This is feminine energy. This is masculine energy. The Eye of Providence is where the combination of two opposite energies occurs. Aleister Crowley taught that when the combination of masculine and feminine energy occurs, that is where the most powerful magics occur. I haven't read all of his works, but I know that is something he believed in. If we look at the Freemason Trace board, this board will tell us so much about what these people are involved in, but most people don't understand it because it doesn't say it in a language that they speak. It speaks in symbols. So you've got the two pillars, and you can see they kind of combine to make the center pillar. On the ladder is a representation of the ascension to godhood. Freemasons will tell you this is Jacob's ladder. Never listen to a Freemason about anything they have to say about Freemasonry, because Freemasons take blood oaths of silence where they're not allowed to teach non-members about the organization. To trust a Freemason to teach you about Freemasonry is akin to trusting a Jew to teach you about the Talmud. They cannot reasonably be expected to do that because they've made oaths not to. Now, the ladder is the ascension to godhood. At the bottom of the ladder, you have the black and white tiles. These are the dualities of good and evil. You have a blue and yellow shirt here. They're telling you that the dualities of good and evil are matters of perspective, and that if you want to understand them, you have to understand that not everybody views good and evil in the same way. So as you climb this ladder in the ascension to godhood, halfway up the ladder, you will find a person dressed in green. This is everlasting life, the evergreen to Freemasons. This is why they like twin pine. This is why Hillary Clinton's tag was the evergreen. We talked about that previously. But it's tied to pink because green and pink are color inversions, and the way you attain everlasting life is through sex and fertility. And that's why there's a key tied to the pink, because the key to everlasting life is tied to sex and fertility. At the top of the ladder, there's a woman dressed in white and gold. She's a little pixelated here, but if you go and pull up the image, you will find she's standing there with naked children hugging her. This woman is Ishtar, the goddess of whores from Babylon. She's the mother of harlots, the mother of whores, and it's east where north should be because it's East Star, Ishtar. And Ishtar is something we've talked about with John Lennon's son and the pizza, the music video about Jack Parsons. Yep. But again, Ishtar, just like Malak, is known for doing the W. And she's the love and war. It's one arm is black, the other's white. She's known for owls because this was the woman on top of Epstein's temple. So if I were to pull up this image again, this golden woman up here, who is often replaced with owls with a lion here, those are all representations of Ishtar. And it's gold because this is about reincarnation and godhood and the ascension to it. The 14 stripes are for Osiris. This is the labyrinth that they navigate by making blood sacrifice, and the ladder is the same red as the front of the temple, because when you invert this temple, like the Freemason Trace Board teaches us, that's why this eye is here, just like it's over here, hard connecting Jeffrey Epstein to Freemasonry. When you invert this, you'll note the white cube becomes the black cube of Saturn. And to climb the black cube of Saturn and to stand atop the cube of Saturn is to say you have life everlasting, that you're standing atop the cube of death. How do they do it? They make blood sacrifice, which provides the anti-light that allows them to see through this void of death, to climb the 14 stripes of Osiris, and then to stand atop the cube of Saturn as Ishtar does, and to attain life everlasting. That is why there's a white cube with a black chalice directly beneath the woman dressed in gold and white, because this is telling you that the angelic, the demonic act of drinking the blood of children after raping them becomes the angelic act of receiving everlasting life and sitting atop the cube of Saturn. That is what this temple was. That is what the government will never tell you. And it's because they don't want you to know that they took your money and they used it to traffic children onto the plates of cannibals who believe that they could be your god. That would probably piss off a lot of people if they understood these arrows are for Malak, these 8s are for the infinite, this M and this W are for Malak and Ishtar. People would be a lot more furious if they didn't think it was just kids trying to get in with celebrities.
Right.
So to pull us back to this location, though, for a second, I just wanted to remind everybody I don't care if they're Muslims, if they're Jews, if they're Hindus, if they're Taoists. These people are not actually what they say they are. They're a practicing coven, is what they are. They're a coven of witches, and they're expecting you to ponder the orb. This is how these people operate and how they communicate, and it sounds crazy to talk about it because everybody's been trained to view these things as an absurdity, that there would be nobody in their sane mind. But it's J.P. Morgan who told us the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire is you need an astrologer. And which astrologer did he mean but Aleistar Crowley? Aleistar Crowley was he's the guy we talked about, the modern occultist who brought this all together. And he was an astrologer, he was an alchemist. And there's a reason why these people so famously worship this guy, where he's on the cover of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper album. He's right up here in the corner if you look. Right. And this top row is the people who were the most influential in their band, in their band's existence. So if he's in the top left, that should tell you something about him. He is very important to them. You know, when we come out here and we find these things and we find people doing these practices and following the principles that Aleistar Crowley taught them of reflection, inversion, and reversal, they're doing it to follow the same course of action, which is to rape children in pursuit of godhood and everlasting life, to sell their souls. Now I'm going to move us over to Cat Hill for a second.
Okay.
Because I think that it's kind of, you know, I've only just started to discover that elementary school, and some of it, like I was saying, they watched my videos when I covered this, then they changed everything, and now I showed you, we have to go and look for it. It's not just over in the corner. But if we drop it in the right spot, you'll find that they've left you portals into this area. And this is kind of how this location used to connect to Corey Billy's airboat rides. There used to be a section of photos that could only actually... Yeah, no. I was wondering maybe if that was a thing, but there used to be a section of photos that you could only access from back here if you got to them through the Cape Ramano Dome House. And when I called them out on it, of course, those photos disappeared.
Just like the pedo church that we showed in a video. We got it on video in a previous work. Look, that used to be the Church of Pederasty, and now it's been changed to
Art Security.
Yep, Art Security.
And yeah, this is like evidence that they are watching us. When I called people, what I said last time was I wanted everybody to go to the Ascension Island website and start asking why there was a Church of Pederasty on their island. Within like a week, that shit changed. Within a week, that shit disappeared. And it did it because they don't want us to be able to go, well, this is a windy road. It comes down to a windy road. And if you follow the windy road down to here, to their botanical gardens, well, what the fuck is this?
Right.
This is them directly connecting this puzzle solve, and this will probably be the next thing they get rid of. This is a puzzle, and it's directly connecting this puzzle process to pedophilia, to the Church of Pedophilia, a religion that practices pedophilia as a religion. And there's only so many of those that we could possibly come to a comfortable conclusion with, and it's Luciferianism. It's literal devil worship. It is not just like ironic pouring milk on yourself. It is actually like, we worship the devil. This is how we do it.
Right. And it was just the Church of Pederasty, right?
Yeah, it was the Church of Pederasty.
It was named the Church of Pederasty is what the name of the church was previously.
Yeah, and pederasty refers to same-sexual relations between an adult man and an adolescent boy.
Can you zoom that in just so we can get a good look at it?
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. That's like right off of Google. If you search up what is pederasty, so when they had a Church of Pederasty, they're telling you flat out that was a church of pedophilia that we had on this island, and this was the same island where I caught them trafficking children, and I caught them bragging about how they had. Sorry, give me a second. I'm just trying to fix.
No worries, man. And if you guys are new to Dean, you got to check out. I mean, the playlist is easiest on YouTube, but I got it on Rumble. You'll see all our tags. I'm trying to make them somewhat similar to the way that he mirrors images and stuff like that. But it's got his icon, sound for sound, on all of his tags, and so you should be able to find them whether on Rumble or Substack. I think you should be able to search it on Substack. And I would recommend going back and watching those, and then use his link tree that's down below this video, and you'll be able to get access to his Rumble.
And I apologize that I'm not always the most composed person on my channel. I'm very much in a position now where I'm tired of watching them get away with this. And I just said it to Booma before. The worst pain that a man can suffer is knowledge over much and power over little. And I tell you, I've got the knowledge over much part covered quite thoroughly. This is a location I call Tum Nabui. And I want to remind people about this because they've been changing this location. And if you watch, it's important to have the context. If you watch the first video with me and Booma and Biscuit, I showed everybody how there was a giant maze that led me to these locations. I didn't just happen upon them. I followed a process to get to them, just like I followed a process to find Kitty Pink House in the Royan district of Thailand. These are actual locations that they're bragging about killing kids, and this is obviously an obelisk. But when you put it together, you notice now you have an Eye of Horus here, looking up at this portal thing where the demons are waiting to come through. There's a horn here where they throw the corpses after they're done chucking kids out of planes onto this rock. And the way that I know that brings us to this image. This image comes from a place called East Crater. This is Eight-Fingered Demon, and it's an angel above it, because to them, angels and demons are one and the same thing. They're saying that demons can appear angelic depending on your perspective, and angels can appear demonic depending on your perspective. To them, they don't like that I have a guardian angel because it means they can't fuck with me. But when we come out here and we look at this, it used to be such, if we were to climb and scroll north, and now it's doing this, where I was showing Booma earlier, where this is kind of happening, where it's moving this portion of it up and out into the ocean. I don't know why it's doing that, but you can see things don't line up here. And it's because they're probably telling me to cut this image up in specific ways. I'll have to investigate this more a little bit later, but you can already kind of see there are faces on the edge here where this line is that shouldn't be here. And when we would climb north of this, it would lead us into where you see how now it's fading. It used to bring us into a black grid pattern of Malak and of Saturn. So this location over here, here. This is the location where that image came from, where this one right here comes from. They deleted it because I kept talking about it. They deleted another image from here where it was a skeleton with a bunch of orange butterflies from this location too, because they felt that would be too obvious. And sure enough, it's like a pyramid, an eyeball here, or eye, nose, mouth, chin. And you can kind of see there's just like a totem of demonic faces that they left in that.
Yeah, I see so many demons in that. Like, it's just nonstop.
Yeah. So it's like I said, it's wild that they do that, and they do it everywhere they go because they're religiously bound to do it. And this is the grid pattern that I talk about all the time. This is a grid of Saturn. You've been moosed. People who have seen me do this before know that I'm what I'm talking about here. But this is you've been moosed. It's a phonetic reversal. And you might not have been able to hear that, but it's Tum Nebui.
Yep.
And when we take that and we move it up, you've been moosed. You've been moosed.
You've been moosed.
And this is how you translate a phonetic reversal. You're not just saying what you think it is. You're saying what you think it is, reversing it, and seeing if you can get it to say what it's supposed to say forward. So Tum Nebui. Well, we all know what a tomb is. And when you go to a translate, what is Nebui? And stone. Or when I used to go to they must have changed that too. Tum Nebui. With a stone. Tomb with a stone. And that is because they're talking about taking kids out in planes. That's where there's two planes. And then they fly them out from East Crater right on over and drop them out of the plane onto the rock, and into the obelisk they go to feed their moose god. That's straight up. Like, that is what's going on this island. Nobody can convince me otherwise of that at this point.
So when you say they drop the kids out, they're dropping them to their death.
Yeah, they're dropping the kids out of the plane in a ritual human sacrifice, a murder, a blood murder. And there was the reason I got started on this investigation to begin with, where I really confirmed what I believe what it was there was a man at level 900, which you'll have to watch the original video for me to get into this whole spiel, because I don't want to recap it again. All right, the second. But at this location, this is an Illuminati hotspot next to Lake Illuminatalik. Illuminatalik is from Illuminatir. From Illuminatir becomes from the Illuminated. There was a whole maze here I had to run, and when I ran it, the first image I saw was of a boy being like darkened out to look like a demon. And this is Malak. This is the labyrinth within the world. This is the grid pattern that you have to understand, the esoteric symbols. And if you know, flip the image. These are this is how they communicate with one another. They leave these things out, and then you're supposed to know Skull and Bones. You're supposed to know that is the tall black man, and you're supposed to make the connections. Now, unfortunately, they've gotten rid of this. This guy ran when I made this connection, and this isn't the most articulate video. But if you go and you look this up, I'm not going to watch the whole thing, but you'll note this is the photo I was talking about. This is one of the photos they deleted from East Greater. It's very obvious to talk about what they're doing at this island when this is one of the photos they're advertising. But when I go to my Map Games episode, sorry, I'm getting a little bit discombobulated, but give me 1 second. Here. This is David Miller. David Miller posted this video of a boy. It's 9 seconds long, and this was the first image I found at level 900. So immediately, I'm dealing with the Illuminati. Obviously, at this point, I knew, boom, this is the first image I find. Child trafficking, ritual human sacrifice. These are the things that are going through my mind, especially when I just had gotten out of the other side of running a maze of Malak, Saturn. He posted this video here, the 7-second one. And that is what I was talking about in this video, if you ask me. Because what it was, and I correctly made this assessment because he fucking deleted his account and he ran. He was masturbating while reliving the act of pushing a child out of a plane, and he was reliving that experience by watching a character in a game called Roblox, a game that's all about cubes, fall from an extremely high height, and then he climaxed when the character hit the ground. And when I called him out on that and I tried to draw government attention to that, he disappeared. But that is that's why I believe that this location on Cat Hill, this is, and it's not just that, but the more I look into this location, the more evidence I accumulate that this is an island that is worse than Little St. James Island, because this is an island that is actively participating in ritual human sacrifice of children that is not being discussed on the news because nobody fucking knows it exists. And you got places like Pyramid Point Road. Like, we're not supposed to put 2 and 2 together with that. And when we follow Pyramid Point Road to Pyramid Road and you follow it down, this location was at 33 Pyramid Road. So Church of Pederasty at 33 Pyramid Road, and I'm not supposed to make the connection to Freemasonry?
Right.
No. So that's kind of, that's this whole island. And the more you look at this island, like Our Lady of Ascension, what does ascension mean to a Freemason? This is not about Mother Mary. This is about the ascension to godhood and how they worship Ishtar, because blasphemy is part of their religious requirement. They have to make holy symbols and do unholy acts with them, just so people are aware. They do this all the time because it's part of their religion. Until people come to understand their religion, they'll continue to get away with it. But the major thing, why is the maze up? Why is the maze up? Why is the maze up? I don't know how I did this. How did I do this? This maze has been down now for fucking months. Did they just turn it back on while I was streaming with you? This is what the maze used to look like before they turned it off and they made it basically impossible to access.
And didn't we only have it the first time that you, me, and Biscuits were on that it actually worked?
Yeah, because they turned it off right after that, and now it's like they turned it back on. This was from 0-0.
And then explain a little bit more about how you follow the maze.
So when I'm in the maze,
This is
I'm surprised that they turned this on. They're being bold tonight because they again, I told you they're watching. They think that this is funny.
Right.
They
Heads
think
up,
that
anybody with flashing lights, this could cause. Just be aware. This is going to be flashing lights in this maze the way they have it.
Yeah, so if you look, there are tiny little white cubes down to the smallest detail. They're flashing in small patterns, and some of these tunnels are lit up, right? And some of them are like very small. Down to the smallest detail, all of these white lines are part of the maze. And when you run the maze, you're supposed to follow the flicker patterns, and you can see like this is a darker area, right? And then when you come up here, it's all light, and it starts freaking out. There's different flicker rates and different patterns where you kind of get a warm cold feeling. I don't know how best to describe it. That may not be the most scientific term, but you have to like look for how fast is the screen flashing? Is it flashing in a consistent pattern? Is it going up and down? And when you finally get out there and you follow one of these mazes, 9 times out of 10, in my experience, it has led me out to a child trafficking location where they're doing satanic symbolism, where they're making reference to this kind of game. And that's because this is the maze. I actually have to leave this tab open now because this is the first time I've been able to open the maze since they closed it a few months ago.
And you can spend hours just searching the maze.
Yes, I've done that before, where I just run because the only location I have found that was actively, and now I got to go and check over here actually.
Right. This is fucking crazy, guys. Like, if you understood, like he hasn't been able to access that maze. When you think about Google and like the 666 symbol and all the various things with Google, the idea that Google Maps is also set up in a way for pedophiles to be able to find locations where they're welcome, find locations where sacrifices are happening, find locations they could travel to in order to have sex with kids and participate in this evil. And this is going on in this world, and people need to understand it. When we first started, as far as my experience in the truther movement, people were exposing a lot of stuff. Not like this, not at this angle. They didn't teach you nothing. They just told you how bad it is and traumatized everybody, but then told you the white hats are saving the day. And here we are. Now they're covering up Epstein, and they don't want you to know about this. And Dean's trying to teach you how you can do it yourself. You don't just have to rely on him. You can go and you can like start learning what this stuff is and go on his channel, and you start picking up how he does this, and you can start replicating it to a degree. Now you've got 10 years into this, bro. So people can understand that too.
I want to explain, like, as far as phonetic reversal goes, I've been practicing that for a long time. But this mirror game, I only picked this up in 2025. This was like 9 months ago, maybe 10 months ago now. That I actually picked up the mirrors and figured out that they were using reflections in more obvious places than what I previously thought. Now, originally, what I wanted to point out was this face is in half a face. And what originally led me to level 900 was when I got here, I was literally just scrolling around Google Maps and I didn't know what I was looking at. I just said, hey, that sounds like Illuminati. Wouldn't that be funny? And then I looked and I go, oh, look. There's a pyramid with an eyeball. Oh, look, it looks like a shaft and a ball sack, knowing that they are involved with Crowley's sex cult, so sex magic. Infinite, I now know that this is not just a ball sack, but it's shaped like a figure 8 for a reason.
Right.
When I zoomed in on this, I noticed the eyebrows are pointing, because when I put this together, I noticed eyebrows are pointing. And then I saw they're pointing at a face that looks to the left. And when I scrolled to the left, the whole maze opened up, which is why I wanted to see real quick because it's active over here, and this is evidence that this maze is still active. I don't know how I accessed it just yet, but yeah, so that was how I got into level 900. Was I ran a maze similar to this and then ran it correctly. The only location I've been able to find that was actually in the maze itself, designed to be found in the maze, was right here at level 900. It didn't appear to me unless I was in the maze. You couldn't find it.
What is level 900? As that?
So level 900 is this location where this is, Saturn worship. It's reflecting the sky because they're saying that Saturn controls heaven and earth. That's the black cube. They're climbing the ascension ladder.
And that area that you just showed us, that's where you would enter the maze, because that's what we did on the first episode with Biscuits.
Yes. And now that maze is shut down, but we still have some maze over on 00. And this is in Quebec, Canada. In the northern part of Quebec, Canada. Now, I can't get up here to see exactly what's going on, but when I first came into this maze, I found a lot of places that would allow me in if you followed the puzzle correctly. And to me, that was that was not an accident. There's probably some kind of network of trafficking going on here. I don't know if it's an underground tunnel network or what have you, but there are specific rules to the game on how to enter. Things like this, where it used to be stuff like this would point out and you'd notice, okay, this is just like a block of gray and pink, but suddenly there's black speckles here, and that's for a reason. It's because they're hiding images here for you to reflect and find. But most people wouldn't know. You would never know. And the reason why I know that it's not natural is because this is what satellite imagery looks like.
Right.
Like, this is actual satellite imagery. It's right next to it. And then you come right over here and you go, oh, look, that's not normal. So this is definitely, to me, this is one of their locations. And the reason why they've changed it so much is because I have been making a stink about it, because Boom has been having me on a show and we have been making traction, and people are raising an eyebrow about it now, being like, why is it that all of these people do mirror games? Why did Madonna's Eurovision show have those demons up in the curtain? Why was she doing reflected images all throughout the show? Why is it that everybody in the cult does this on Facebook and on Twitter and all their profile pictures? And you can find them in movie covers, album covers. You find that this is a commonly used practice, and suddenly you have a method of identifying these people independent of the government. And that's very, very important. You have to be able to identify your enemies independent of the systems which your enemies have usurped. And most people don't want to hear that, because, we like to have optimistic faith in our government, but I'm at a point where I'm telling y'all, the whole government's got to go. All these people are corrupt. They're covering up cannibalism and ritual human sacrifice of children. I have the evidence. I know what it is. The government has been to my house, and when they came to my house to try to get me for things I said to Ted Cruz, because I said that we should put him feet first into a wood chipper when he said defending we should stop attacking pedophiles, suddenly they can come to my house about that. And I said, okay, are you guys here to help me with my child trafficking investigation? No, of course not. No. Then we don't hear back from them. Then they run away with the tail between their legs, because they know this is above their pay grade. And we're talking about the Secret Service.
Right. Right. And I don't know if you got into Sabrina's work or whatever, but there are levels above Secret Service and all these things that they don't talk about publicly. People don't know about them.
You're right. Absolutely. You're right. And that's 100% true. And that's the whole reason why I say, people have to start realizing, there is an illusion at play for your government. To have faith in the government at this point, when they've so clearly tried to just cover up what Epstein did. They've tried to change the conversation about what Epstein did. All of that. There's no reason for us to give the government, who has spent the better part of a century lying to us and using our money to traffic children. There's no, and this goes back to the finders in the 50s. Yes. This is not just this is the same cult that's been operating in America now for fucking more than half a century. And the government's complicit in it. And we should be, this is the justification people would need when people go, well, when is it time to take up the guns? This is the justification people would need to make that line of argument. And I think that's the most reasonable way I could put it. When people are out there asking, how do we know when it's time? The government's never going to tell you when it's time. When you have them out here doing actual devil worship and bragging about eating the flesh of kids and chucking kids out of planes, and your government's taking your money to coordinate it, it becomes very difficult not to come to that conclusion. That's my take on it. And if the government wants us not to come to that conclusion, maybe they should do something to give people confidence that the government is going to give consequences to those cannibals who participated in these heinous activities.
Right. And we need to be praying for an act of God.
Amen.
Because what they're doing right now, especially in what they're magnifying right now, is Minneapolis, not far from where the George Floyd false flags, PSYOP or whatever went down. He's Freemason. They are making ICE out to be the enemy. Then it's going to be federal versus state, federal versus National Guard. They're going to start making it more common for us to see military in our areas, and the surveillance state is coming for our protection and our safety. They are slowly but surely bringing this stuff in to the point where you can have all the guns that you want. At this point, it's arguable that you wouldn't have much of a chance, maybe locally. However, we can business to keep saying, man, there's got to be a remedy for the treason.
The remedy for the treason is
a satanic, cannibalistic, kid fucking cabal. That's what we have.
And that's exactly right. To remedy the treason, you need the Second Amendment. That is what the Second Amendment is for. They are hoping that by killing you through poisoning you with the vaccines, by lying to you and getting you involved in, we're going to go and we're going to occupy Venezuela now. Oh, we're going to get involved in this war or that war. Or, oh, well, now we got to focus on this issue here at home and not that issue. They're hoping that they can pit us against each other and keep us from talking about the fact that the ruling class is involved in a cannibal cult and they're taking our money and they're using it to eat the flesh of children, because that is something that everybody from every race, every religion, except for Luciferians, would be able to get behind. And we'd be every generation, because they divide us along like boomers, millennials, Generation Z, Gen X. Like, no, we all should be able to agree. If these people are cannibalizing children and our government is covering it up, which they are, there should be fucking consequences for that.
Right. And there's that famous speech where Reagan, who was part of the whole thing, Reagan was an actor. He wasn't even in charge. He's just another puppet like Trump and like all these guys like Biden. They're all just puppets. From all I can tell now and seeing what I've seen and where we're at with this kind of stuff, where it's not being handled or whatever. But Reagan said it would take aliens coming to this planet for the countries and everyone to unite to fight against them. The aliens are the pedophiles. They are here and they are fucking in control and they're taking over. And we need to unite. We need to be able to agree to disagree, and we need to come together and get rid of this shit. Or call it out, at least put up a fight and stand for humanity. Otherwise, we're just going to be on our knees and shackles on our freaking necks and legs and ankles and everything.
So I always advise, I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I would advise everybody, this is a great speech to read, because this is exactly what you have going on in the world today. And it's basically the essence of the speech is, should we just wait until they've got us dead to rights? Do we just wait and let them have it? Or do we actually do something? Do we cling to the illusions of hope, or do we actually address the truth for what it is? And when we're talking about demons and aliens being one being, this is Aleister Crowley channeled a demon called Lom. This is like the Archangel Gabriel to these fucking crazies. And of course, it looks just like the modern depiction of an alien. And there's a reason why both demonic possession rituals and alien abductions involve sodomy. It's because they're breaking down the root chakra. So when we're talking
aliens talk always about alien anal probes.
Yeah, it's because it's about this. It's about how they break the root chakra to let themselves in for possession rituals, and whether or not you believe in all that, you can look at it from the scientific perspective. Why do they do sexual torture during MK Ultra? You know, like there's a reason why they go through all of that when they're making these people. It's because into these lifeless puppets. It's because they know how to perform these rituals. Now, I would just say, as far as what Reagan said, there's only like 3 cards they have. They can say it's an alien invasion, and that goes into like a 2-parter where it's either the aliens have come to give us technology and we should all just form a one-world government and make peace with each other so we can have the technology, or they're a malevolent force and we need to unite as a human species to fight them, which is kind of what Reagan was saying. That's one playbook that they'll probably do before the world is over. The other one is a second pandemic, which they're talking about and they're hinting at quite frequently, but they may only be doing that as like a feint to try to like get people scared and startled and to focus on that rather than other things that they don't want them to focus on.
Right. And then they float that stuff out there all the time. Bird flu, monkeypox, like they'll put it in certain areas. What was it? Measles at one point they were saying there was a little outbreak somewhere. They float this stuff out, make it commonplace, make you numb to it, but also in those areas create fear. I think there's something here in Missouri where they were talking about, I don't know if it's bird flu or what it was, but they're trying to, also cut down on the food population. Food production, all that kind of stuff, so we become dependent on their production of food, which is shit.
Yes.
They float this stuff around all the time, and then I've brought it up many times, but they did float around, I think at the WEF, that there would be at some point a global cyber attack that would make COVID look like child's play.
Yeah,
there would be some kind of hacking situation that would disable imagine this, disabling all like the banking and all your transactions and all that stuff. What's the answer they're gonna bring? Oh, digital currency. Yay. And then digital ID in order to use your currency. Oh, what does that sound like? They're gonna bring forward some of these prophecies on purpose. and whatever you believe in, it's one thing. But that's what these people want to do. They'll be bringing forward some of the stuff that's been prophesized in some of these holy scriptures, and including the Bible, and they want it to come forward and scare the shit out of everybody.
So, and I think one of the things when we talk about like prophecies, the Bible accurately predicted that the end goal for them would be a one world government, a one world religion, and a one world economy. Like out the gate in Revelation, that is absolutely the end game for these people. What a lot of people don't understand is how they go about getting it. And that's why I say read Albert Pike's letter to Mazzini. They will tell you that this letter is false. But when you read it and you judge for yourself about the Third World War in particular between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world, we can kind of see how this is happening such where they believe that political Zionism and the Muslim Arabic world mutually destroy each other. That's their goal. And
Right.
Revelation tells us that the Church of Rome, particularly the Catholic Church, rises again and unifies the world under a one world religion, one world economy. And they use the Bank of the Vatican. Basically, they're going to crack open the piggy bank, and they'll make everybody pick a day. They'll make everybody worship on Sunday, pick a church and come and worship, and they'll enforce it by law. And if you don't do it, they'll lock you out of your bank account. And that is an abomination of desolation. This is, again, the papal throne. This is a demon made out of mirroring the papal throne, located in a giant building that is in the shape of a snake head. They are doing this with religious intent, and this is not a holy intent. This is an unholy intent. I'm not saying this to shit on Catholics. I personally know a lot of really honest to goodness, they're really good Catholics, good people, but they are misled because they believe in the traditions of men more than the gospels of God, and the traditions of men are being directed by people who worship the devil.
And the devil wants to be worshipped. The devil wants to be creation's God. The devil's jealous of the creator, and that's the reason that he took a third of the angels. And even if you don't believe that stuff, that's what they're gonna try to. That's what they're trying to bring forward. It's like they're so prideful. Like I said many times, these people actually think they're gonna war against God and win. That's like what at least Satan or whatever the being is you want to say at the highest levels of evil. It could be AI for all you want to say, whatever it is. Because I know people have been harmed by religion. They've been harmed by churches. It's all for a fucking reason. Freemasonry at play, the Illuminati, all this kind of stuff has really caused people not to want to talk about any of this, even Bible stuff and whatnot. But they are going to bring this stuff forward, and they're going to.
And to those people, I would just say, again, this is spiritual warfare. Whether or not you believe in these things does not matter. They're all too happy to have atheists, because Albert Pike's letter that I just brought up tells you exactly what happens to the atheists. From their belief system, they're going to use the atheist, the absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and the most bloody turmoil. They're telling you. They're using the atheist to cause a social cataclysm, which will then create an opportunity for them to say, well, Christianity lost its deistic spirit. Here's something else for you to worship. This is, again, like, you have to understand your enemy. Whether or not you believe in it doesn't matter.
Right.
They believe in these things and they act accordingly.
And a lot of people in the world believe these religious doctrines or whatever they are, religious scriptures of various religions. And so they want to bring all that stuff forward. They're utilizing it against us. Some have posed the idea, and I think I've talked about this with Sabrina Wallace, is that they might even do a fake revelation just to take down as many Christians as possible.
Well, that's what a lot of people theorize they're going to do with the rapture, because the rapture is not a biblical concept, but they have a lot of people fooled into believing that there will be some kind of rapture event, which a lot of people call Project Blue Beams. Blue Beams. I've seen too many of the cat meme, but yeah, it's Project Blue Beams, where they're going to try to fake an alien invasion or fake a mass alien abduction, where they get people off the planet before some grand mass extinction event.
Right. And that's and Sabrina brings this up sometimes, and it's also like in some of my circles, and it's great people. I love them or whatnot, but it's just like they all have their faith in Jesus, and then they just go forward and nothing matters because they have their faith in Jesus. Great, that's great. And then a lot of them believe that they're just going to be raptured out of here before it gets really bad. I'm just like,
I would, to people like that, I say you're spiritually numb in a dangerous way. And I mean that sincerely. I don't mean that to just be an alarmist, but when we're talking about just looking the other way for ritual human sacrifice and cannibalism at the highest levels of government, because no worries, Jesus would be okay. We got this. Just follow the plan. I don't see anywhere in the Bible where it says we're supposed to just let these people get away with this completely unhindered. I don't. I don't think that that's what Jesus would do. I think Jesus would kick up a stink. I think he would, just like your shirt says, he would flip tables over this. He would be flipping a lot worse than tables over this.
Right.
And I don't think it's one of those things where a lot of Christians get caught up on the idea of violence and what it means. And I tell you, there is a justified time for violence. There is. When your government is actively worshiping the devil, I mean, in Revelation is a great example. Millstone's only referenced like 3 times in the Bible. What is it that actually destroys this one world government that is prophesied in Revelation? It is an angel comes down and picks up a stone, like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, thus...
Will you make that a little bit bigger? Sorry, bro.
Absolutely. And says, thus, with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down and shall be found no more at all. Okay, so with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down and shall be found no more at all. I'm not saying that that is necessarily an excuse for us to all go out and just start fucking killing people, but you have to understand there is an appropriate time for violence. And when you have people committing ritual human sacrifice of children in pursuit of godhood, where they're worshiping false idols and they're spitting at God and they're using your money to do it, you have to understand, either we take action against these people and say our civilization does not stand for the ideologies that these people are using it for, or God is going to assume that we are allied with these people and we're going to get destroyed for it. And I'm not saying individual by individual, but as a civilization, as a culture, we're going to have a collapse if we don't stop cannibals from being at the top of the economy, being at the top of the government, being atop the fucking culture. We have to understand. And again, why is it a millstone? Because the millstone's only referenced a handful of times. Because it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck and he cast into the sea, that he should allow then he should offend one of these little ones. Okay, so there's a reference not only to the millstone, but to being cast into the sea, because that's what happens to Mystery Babylon. The great city gets cast into the sea. Cast it into the sea because it's of abuse of children. That is what this is. Make millstones great again. I like that a lot.
Right.
Like I've been. It's one of those things where like there is an appropriate time, and I think we've long since passed it, and people are too comfortable with letting cannibal child traffickers manipulate public opinion, manipulate the access of information. I mean, it was Kennedy who said that these people would use classified information to cover up their crimes. You know what I'm saying? So, and to that, we are Jesus followers. We have the Holy Spirit. We don't need to be afraid of these people. Our God is stronger than theirs, but we have to start acknowledging that these people are at spiritual war with us and that we need a spiritual war to fight back. If we ignore that aspect of this fight, we're doing the whole species a disservice. I really mean it. When I first came face to face with this, when I first became born again, the first thing I did when I realized that these people are actually worshiping demons, that when I came face to face with the fallen angel, I said, if that's real, so too is Jesus Christ. Because if there's an ultimate evil, there's also an ultimate good. Because, and this is something else Freemasons don't like to talk about, but the Freemason trace board is like the yin-yang symbol. It assumes a whole lot about the world. That evil cannot exist without good and good cannot exist without evil. That is a farce. Good can exist independent of evil. Evil requires good to parasite off of. And that distinction is very important. When we think about opportunity cost and things like all the cures for cancer, 0-point energy, anti-gravity devices, all the things that they have, but they have made us not allowed to have because they'd rather us to be controllable cattle. you have to understand, like, this is what we're talking about. This is the future your children are having stolen from them so that they can be slaves to what? Child trafficking cannibals? Pass. Hard pass.
Right. And evil has its own Trinity. Evil has its own, yeah, sure, Holy Spirit. It's not the Holy Spirit. It's their inversion, perversion of the God Trinity.
Yeah, that is what Crystal just said down there is the divine feminine, right? And why they say why they always make the argument that God is a woman is because to them Ishtar is the one that provides them everlasting life that lets them to stand atop the cube of Saturn. That's why Eminem says love is evil. Spell it backwards. I'll show you why Diddy is named Love on Twitter. Why it's always about love. Because love, what is it? Love is the law to Aleister Crowley. Or when Pope Francis said, we all worship the same God. It's the God of love, right? It comes back to this. It comes back to Ishtar and comes back to how they're covering up what Ishtar actually represents and what it means because they don't think the public is ready for it. Right. They want to get us to a point where we're desperate enough where we will accept ritual cannibalization of children as commonplace. That's one of the reasons why abortion is such a big talking point. It's not just about the fact that killing the unborn is wrong, but it's about the fact that now you've got Satanists and certain Jewish sects saying abortion is a religious right. It's because it's a form of human sacrifice. And when people go out and perform these human sacrifices, they are making God very angry. And to take that part of the conversation out of it, it lessens the impact of what's actually going on and the consequences that we're going to have to face as a result.
Yeah, and they have a literal show named Lucifer. They've got they have been for a long time romanticizing the idea of vampires, bloodsuckers, and like they've been making them in some more recent ones out to be, like they can't help themselves. And then there's like a almost like sexual aspect of like their desire, their need for human blood, and it's been romanticized in crazy ways. And I get this, like I think that the Greek translations will lead you to that, but there was a lot of pedophilia in the Greek. Not to bash all the Greek, but there's plenty of pedophilia going on with that whole thing.
I mean, that's the whole thing with Hermes. I always say Hermes is a great example of that because the Hermes sects, they used to go up onto the mountains because Hermes was known for transcending mortal boundaries. And one of that is like transcending moral boundaries. So what would they do? They would go up and transcend the moral boundary of having sex with a younger boy. And the young boys would then basically be raped by the older men of the sect. That was a form of Hermes worship back in the day, from my understanding.
And then check out what I mean, like, is Greece where Tom Hanks went?
I think he went to Australia. You mean during COVID?
Australia, but I think he got citizenship. I don't know if it was Greece, but he went to some place where pedophilia was legal and got citizenship. But it's basically legal in Greece, yes. And then when you translate Greek translations of the Bible, you'll think that Jesus was walking around with a bunch of kids as if he was like a pedophile himself or something. It's very strange. It's very strange.
And that's one of those things they do to twist the scripture, and they try to turn it. So yeah, Biscuit says that is why Hanks moved there. Yeah, and Tom Hanks is somebody who I covered pretty recently, but this should be no surprise when you find all of Tom Hanks' movie covers, and he's doing phonetic reversal in all of his films. You catch them and you go, okay, well now they're attacking your subconscious by doing that, and they're making acts of devotion to their false gods. This is how you identify them. And when you catch people doing it, I'm not going to say like every single person who does an image reflection is one of these people, but when you catch them doing it, more often than not, when you catch them doing it in combination with each other, meaning they're doing not just image reflection, but they're also doing color inversion, and then they're also doing phonetic reversal. Now you got 3 different forms of cipher communication. That's a little bit hard to just brush off and be like, well, I don't know. That could be anything.
There's some interesting conversations going on. I don't want to start any like spiritual wars or whatever in here. We got to agree to disagree, like we were saying. Like we all can agree that these evil, pedophile, satanic rulers need to be done away with, regardless of what your translation is, belief is, even if you're an atheist. This affects your world too.
Yeah, and it does. And it's one of those things where it's the mark of an educated mind that entertains a thought without accepting it. When you start looking at these things with an unbiased mind, when you actually start taking these processes that I have given to everybody and you repeat them, you will come to the inevitable conclusion that these people are in fact doing this because it happens too frequently for it to just be chalked up to coincidence. At some point, a pattern has to be established and acknowledged for what it is. And when that pattern doesn't just appear out of thin air, we have to ask ourselves, all right, why is this pattern appearing? And the reason for it is religious intent. And in this instance, the religion is of Luciferianism. So, everybody can make their own conclusions about it. I always say I'm not one of the reasons why apostate Christianity is the final boss to Christianity is because this is the end times. A lot of people are going to suffer at the hands of an apostate church, and they're going to be led away from God as a result of it. But you have to understand, they are doing these things because the end goal is to create a system where you do not have a choice, where you are forced to believe what the government tells you to believe. And if you don't, you will be put to death for it. As a Christian, I'm not saying that everybody needs to 100%, you have to follow Jesus Christ. You do, or you're going to go to hell. But I'm not saying that we should pass laws to make you fucking join a church and worship on a specific day the way that these Jesuits want to. All right, what I'm saying is, if your enemy is a bunch of Luciferians, the common conclusion should be to come to Jesus Christ and maybe open your mind to the idea that there is a higher power and that there's a reason why these people oppose that specific person in history more than any other. I'm not going to say you have to come to my religion, but when you start investigating these things, eventually you will come to that conclusion on your own if you do it with an open mind. That's why I give you the tools to do it and say, draw your own conclusions. I'm not saying come out here and you have to join my church or you have to donate to this or anything like that. I'm giving you everything I know free of charge because my ultimate goal is to get these kid fucking cannibals put to death and to save the kids. That's plain and simple, So I just want to clarify to people on my channel. I'm not the best Christian. I'm not going to say I'm like perfect. I have my moments. I'm not going to tell everybody that I'm like, I wasn't raised Christian. But I 100% am a believer of Christ. And I think that if we're going to beat these people, we're going to need Jesus. That's my stance on it. Not people can feel free to disagree with it. That's their right as given to them by God. But
right, it would be quite the psyop if Jesus was used as a way to have good versus evil. It'd be crazy. But from all I can see, Jesus is the only one that is continuously persecuted. It's not Buddha, it's not Muhammad, it's not all these other religious figures. It is Jesus Christ. They hate him so much. Why?
And when you start understanding what they worship, that answers itself. Because they worship his enemy, Lucifer. Right. And that's something where, why are they called the Illuminati? Because they are the illuminated. Because Lucifer is the light bringer. He brought them the light. Okay, that's the kind of system you're dealing with here, where these people, this is what they do. They think that because they have these hidden secret esoteric knowledges, that it gives them the authority to call themselves gods, to live without any consequences for their sin, and to go out there and rape and eat children because they think it'll make God angry enough to start the end times. They think they're going to win the end war against God. That's what it comes down to.
Right. They are so prideful and they believe so much. I mean, I guess they have the fallen angels and these beings have certain gifts and powers and knowledge that they brought from heaven. Maybe I don't know how exactly it works, but it wows them and it convinces them that they are going to defeat this tyrant God that is trying to force his ways upon you when you should do as thou wilt.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. They do believe in the gifts that the fallen angels gave the women before creating the Nephilim, the women who slept with the angels. And as far as the fallen angels goes, we outnumber them 2-1. Only a third of heaven fell. So even in his original rebellion, and look, that's another fucking triangle with an eye. But even in his original rebellion, Lucifer only was able to deceive a third of heaven. And he's a 2-time loser, and he's going to be a 3rd-time loser because these people picked the losing team. They fell for the original lie, which is to say, you can be like God. You just have to take a bite out of this forbidden fruit. And that's essentially what it comes down to. That's why a lot of the times I say they use Eve interchangeably, because they believe, and I've heard this directly from them, they believe that Eve was not wrong to go against God. They think that that was the correct decision, and that that Eve should still be in the Garden of Eden. And to me, I say, all right, well, then why isn't Lucifer in heaven if she wasn't wrong? Why isn't Eve in Eden if they weren't wrong?
Right, and then look at just how this cult that runs the world operates. It's searching for everlasting life outside of Jesus, outside of God, outside of the actual creator. They are trying to find their own way to live forever, because they know at death comes the judgment.
Yeah, well, at death comes the rest, and then the judgment comes when at the end times, when Jesus comes again. And when that happens,
how you interpret it, but yes, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what's going to be. They're going to end up, they know that when they die, that's it for them. And at the judgment, they're going to go to hell, or they're going to win their war. And the truth of it is, most of them, they do understand deep down. They may front and pretend and puff their chests out, but most of them, they do understand that when this is it, that's it. They're not coming back from the dead. That's it for them. They're not coming back to the dead, at least into everlasting life. They're coming back into eternal torment. And that's why you see them go to such extreme lengths to escape death. This is 2 3s connecting. That's why I saw this is weird. And it makes an hourglass with the green and pink in the center. But it's because they want to escape death, because they think that they can live forever. And eventually, things like blood transfusions of the youth into the old, they're going to want to do things like that, but price it out. So only if you make enough money can you live forever. And you can only make enough money if you're part of their cult. That's kind of what it comes down to. Like, why is this at a slant here? I'm sorry. When
they just pop out to you, don't they? And the more I listen to you and watch your videos and watch you work, the more it starts to pop out to me, like earlier when the phonetic reversal was there. But when you caught that slant, my brain caught it like right after yours. I was like, oh snap.
Yeah, because it's the second you see it, you know that this is a form of signaling that they do to one another to hide images. And it's not always like extremely obvious, but knowing that slanted signals is something they do is definitely a game changer, because most people would never pay attention to that level of detail unless they were aware that there's a reason for them to do so. And that's kind of like why when I go over to level 900, if we look at the views, I don't know if it's still here. They get rid of it. But the place is slanted, he says in Indonesian. And it's because they're making a joke about how all of the images from this place have slanted lines in them for you to look for to where you're supposed to cut this image up to make the different satanic imagery. And I do this all the time on my channel. I talk about all the different things they've deleted over the years, but I guess the year now, it's almost a year. What the fuck?
Yeah, and I do hope that to have like a show, or I don't know. Biscuits and I have talked about various things, but I would like to have a show. I keep hearing this brought up about Satan's Little Season. I don't even know what that is, but a lot of people are like pretty convinced of it. And then I ain't gonna kick you out. Like I appreciate other opinions. I think even Sir Escanor, because he has Greek heritage, he talks about the Greek translating the Bible to say that Jesus was amongst like virgins, children, princes, children that would become, given in marriage and those kinds of things. And it was like, what? It's like, so there's other discussions, I guess, that could be had. But we're all here for the right reason, I do believe. Hey, what's up, Layla Decker? Haven't seen you for a while. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah. I'm just I wanted to see if I could find Deesp, because there was somebody else who used to be at level 900 and they deleted their shit. So, now what I found weird about this image was over here, it's showing a different level 900, it looks like. See, these are the kinds of things where I end up in an investigative mode, but knowing that this is like right next to Mu 33, knowing that this is Malak and 33 is for Freemasonry, knowing that this is about having sex with a little girl being viewed as a demonic act, and knowing that when you invert it, it becomes everlasting life and an angel, and knowing what that means to these folks, like that's important, and it's something that not enough people are aware of, just how fucking screwed up in the head these people are. One of the images that they've deleted, where this is another person actually who just completely ran away, was somebody called Nadia Wilson, and Nadia Wilson had this image up at the Cape Romano Dome House, which is exactly like the image that I just showed you. It even shows you the green door right here. So I like bringing these up just to show people, like, they're actively watching what we do. At least on my channel, and I know on Booma's, they've actively responded to our videos, and that they've changed the way they play their game because they're afraid of this information getting out to the public and going viral. Because if these three, I'm sorry, go ahead.
All I was going to say is, because if more people start replicating this and pointing it out, sharing it wherever, like, it's going to spread, and people are going to become aware of it. And it's the communications. They don't want their communications out. It's like someone learning their language. They don't want you learning their language.
Yeah, this is supposed to be
play with you, and they think it's funny until you learn the game. And once you learn the game, you can beat them.
And that's the thing where I've been doing phonetic reversal 10 years. When I figured out about the mirror game, it was 5 minutes later, I got a phone call from the Canadian, basically special intelligence, their MI6. And it was like within 5 minutes of me putting together Madonna's thing on a video. I did a whole bit of that on my Rumble when it first happened, because I was recording as it happened. But when people understand that these ciphers mean that much to them, where they would literally, the second I fucking clicked, they were like, oh, we gotta get him, let's cut him the deal now. These people do not fucking give a shit about any of us. They view us as less than shit, less than bugs, because even bugs can learn from past behavior. So they don't even view humanity as much as an ant, because even an ant can change its behavior based on past experience.
Yeah. And to them, I think when they created America, or allowed America to become what it was, regardless of what they gave us with the Constitution and all that kind of stuff, because even Benjamin Franklin, a lot of them being Masons, says a republic as long as you can keep it. Well, as soon as they gave it to us, they started taking it away. And this illusion of freedom has been here. But what have they brought here? They've brought the most foul entertainment, the Sin City of Vegas, cartels. We've become the cash cow of the world. So they've mined us for our, basically we're slaves paying taxes that pay for many things in the world, including this pedophilia, human trafficking, and all that kind of stuff. It's been an experiment. And I think they're about done with the experiment, from all understanding that I got from.
Well, I think if we're looking at it in that terminology, if we're looking at it from that framework, that would be the exact reason why people should read this letter. Because that is like, again, this is wrote in 1871. There's a reason why Albert Pike is one of the only 33rd degree Freemasons that is public. There's a reason why they restored his statue in Washington, D.C. It's because this was their plan going back before the Civil War, of how they were going to destroy the world to recreate the world in their new image. Okay.
Right.
So I try to tell people, like, I'm at a point now where when we see things like what's going on in the sewers in New York City, and they just cover it up with cement and we don't talk about it, and anybody who talks about it's a conspiracy theorist. You have a rabbi telling you that they were performing rituals in those tunnels to resurrect the dead. What do we think that would look like? I know what it looks like, because it looks like this. It looks like raping children, drinking their blood, and using them as part of ritual human sacrifice. They'll never say that part out loud, but they're telling people that those mattresses were in fact bloodied up, those child-sized mattresses, and it's because they were performing rituals to restore the dead, to bring about their Messiah, which is this Christian Antichrist. Whether or not you believe that or not doesn't matter. That is what that synagogue, Shabbat synagogue in New York City was doing in 2024. That is in New York City. Like, New York City had a cult of cannibals eating the flesh of kids in their sewers. And nobody's allowed to talk about it because the NYPD came in and said, hand wave, these are not the Jews you're looking for. Shut it down. Likewise, Megyn Kelly. Why the fuck does Megyn Kelly have a career now? She was out there when James Aleistar was running his Comet Ping Pong cannibal cult in the middle of Washington, D.C., and she gave him a pass. And now she's getting rewarded because she took a 10-year hiatus where she wasn't really in the public life, but she was. And now she's back and they're trying to mainstream her again because they know she's loyal. And this is, again, green, pink, yellow, blue. It's the Baphomet. All of the pentagrams are pointing down. You can chalk that up to just religious, conspiracy all you want. I don't care, man. That is Freemasonry. That is human sacrifice. I've gone in here. I've done their photos before. I've done James Aleistar. These people were trafficking children in the middle of the city's capital, and they were using our money to do it. And until we resolve every single person who was in this needs to get hung for treason, then there's no real justice in this country. You shouldn't pay taxes, and the laws shouldn't really apply to the laymen because they don't apply to the people at the top.
Right, and James Aleistar has basically kind of disappeared from public eye, right? Do we even know where that fool's at? Does he still own that Comet Ping Pong, or is that even?
I couldn't tell you, to be honest. I know that George Soros put money into Comet Ping Pong. I couldn't tell you if this guy is still the owner of Comet Ping Pong.
Right, and there's questions about whether or not he's like a Rothschild and all that kind of stuff. I don't know.
He was in the Rothschilds family photos.
It makes
He
sense.
He may not have been one of them. I couldn't say that because I'm not a geneticist or I don't have his blood test or anything. But I think I still have it.
What I will say that at one point he was one of the 50 top most powerful people in Washington, D.C.
Yeah,
this is the guy that owns a fucking pizza joint in D.C. and he was ranked in the top 50 most powerful people in Washington, D.C. And all like the Obamas, Tucker Carlson, Clintons, they all went there. Why?
Yeah, and that's exactly the right question is why did they do that? Why did they keep quiet about it? Why do all of them use the exact same cipher communications as Jeffrey Epstein? Why do they all brag about child trafficking on their social media? Right down to like Elon Musk. I've caught him doing photos. I've caught him doing phonetic reversals in tweets. These people are I'm going to see if it'll come up. I don't think it will.
Right, and didn't Elon kind of get called out and caught on 4chan acting like somebody else? But it was like it kind of became apparent that he was even on 4chan.
Yes. And actually, James Aleistar, when this story broke, he was on 4chan trying to say stop criticizing it, and he accidentally spoke as if it was his. But yeah, this is supposedly James Aleistar here out of Rothschild's family.
Oh, that's definitely him. Oh, will you go back close up?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? They've been using AI and all that kind of stuff forever, but that's him. But whether or not I don't know, man. That's my question about some of the stuff that we've been shown because they have it on the internet, and some people argue anything on the internet's there for a purpose. Now, can you find truth? Sure. These people I don't know if it's really like a karmic load that they release by giving out certain truths or what, or if they just want us so caught up in this shit that we don't realize what's really going on. I have no idea. But this seems like an old photo. If you'd argue it's analog, if you could prove it's the original, that is him. That's fucking him.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where we could argue about the legitimacy of the photo, I suppose, but these are people who set the seat at the table for Lucifer at their family gatherings. So if you look at the image, they're doing devil worship in the image. That shouldn't really be surprising.
Right, and they do this proudly and for fun because only so many people are going to ever find out or talk about it, and then they can suppress your numbers. Like the numbers that I have, no matter how good of a video that comes out that I do with various guests or whatever or anything, it's never going to go viral. They're never going to allow this to get too big. They're going to suppress it. They'll give me my happy little numbers, and they'll be like, oh, look how good he's doing, or whatever. They do that with everybody that they don't actually want out here speaking this kind of truth. And there's very few that actually do it this way. Like, I don't know of anyone personally that does it like this. I found somebody else that did phonetic reversals, and what was that? David Oates. and he doesn't get into how, what it really means or anything like that. And I guess that was some of the discussion that you and Biscuits had. But if you're not exposing what it really is used for, that it's a communication between these kid fucking cannibals, I mean,
yeah, and that's what
we're
it
not
comes
really
down.
in it for the right reason, because the whole point would be to expose the truth behind the evil, disgusting, dark truths behind their communications and why they do this.
I had somebody, I think I showed this maybe once on Telegram. I don't know if I can still access it, maybe not. But
Facts.
they had a guy who was basically using clouds and he was reversing them, and they have to do it to some extent because they're religiously bound to tell you that they're doing this stuff. And some people do pick up on it, like the cursed portrait of King Charles. People are aware that there's devil worship going on in it. Maybe they haven't put it together that you're supposed to go left to left, right to right, ceiling to ceiling, floor to floor, but they're aware that there's something going on back here that these people did with this photo that's funky. This is them telling you, the public, that this is something that they do, and if you don't put the patterns together, that it's not just this portrait, well, that's your fault for not putting the patterns together. That's their mindset. It's the predator-prey mentality that they're smart, you're stupid, because they lie to you and you listen. And you don't recognize how they lie to you. That's what I'm aiming to change. I'm aiming to make people aware of the cipher communications in which they use to deceive the public, and then get them held account for it. I'm not going to say that I'm always the most articulate person. I'm not the most professional presenter. I'm just a dude who has been studying this for far too long, and I am tired of waiting for the world to catch up on the fact that our government has been cannibalizing children longer than I've been alive. So that's where I'm at with it. I am fed up. I'm done, and I'm ready for action now. And I keep saying 2026 is going to be the year of the crash out for me, because I'm at that point where this kind of shit, where he's going, no, get trolled by Big Chungus. He thinks that this is funny, but he's not going to be laughing when we put his ass on a fucking burning fire.
Yeah, that's the question that we are always juggling here and trying to figure out what's the best way to approach getting some form of justice. I mean,
you can't trust your government to do it. And I think, again, it's one of those things where I'm not calling for random acts of violence, but the first step, I've always said, is a mass exposure. If we get these ciphers to go viral, if people understand that these things are not just haphazard, and we force the government to account for it, and that's only going to be possible if people actively push it. Because like you said, they're going to control whether or not you get viral. They're going to control whether or not you get your voice out there. They're going to do everything they can to censor you, like they have me, like they have so many others. If the people come together and go, this is weird that this keeps happening over thousands and thousands of images, over hundreds and hundreds of unrelated or seemingly unrelated locations, that it can't be chalked up to coincidence, and then they come to the conclusion, government, what the fuck's going on, and the government pulls a Jeffrey Epstein, they need to know the right position as far as our Constitution is concerned is a revolution. I'm not a military leader. I'm not a military strategist. I'm not somebody who could tell you all the different weapons that these people have and everything else. I've seen what they did to drone warfare in Ukraine and all the rest. But if we're going to stand a chance to these people, it is going to require us to force their hand. And tyrants who believe that they can become God by drinking the blood of children and eating their flesh will never relinquish power willingly. That much I can assure you. They're not just going to give it up because they sold their eternal souls so that they could have it. And whether or not you believe that, they do.
Right. And what Biscuits is saying here is exactly the next step. I mean, some of us have been doing this, but we have to do it on a mass scale. The thing that encourages me just a little bit, and I don't know how much of it is controlled op, is I do see a lot of people holding spaces in places like X and talking about this. More people that were part of maybe the mega crowd or the Q crowd or something like that are finally being like, something's not right here. Trump is not doing at all what it was said that he was going to do. And they're starting to, like, in panic mode, quickly have conversations on what do we do next, and this is what we do next, and then after that, that's what we there we go as far as the steps go.
My main,
like, making a stand for humanity.
My main concern on that is the one simple thing. We have a timeline. They have declared that by 2030, we will own nothing and we will be happy. And they are going to have their one world government, their one world religion, their one world economy. Whether or not they're going to get it by 2030, 2035, they have made no quarrels that this is the intent for the public, for the civilization, and this is what they want. So if we go about the route where we say we all decide we're not going to participate, then what happens? This is why I say about Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes says, oh, well, let's just not vote for Republican candidates until they give us what we want. Okay, what happens? We don't vote. Democrats win. The Democrats end up doing what they're going to do because it's two sides of the same bird. And the Democrats are the ones who are actively insisting they want to destroy the country, right? So you got the Republicans who feign like they're going to save it. Then you got the Democrats who outwardly declare they want to destroy it. If you play the game of not participate, but then you don't replace that, they're just going to go, oh, well, I guess if you're not going to participate, we're just going to destroy your civilization then. Enjoy it. And it's like, what? So that's what the outcome of that to me is from a chess perspective. If we just remove our engagement altogether and say we're not going to do anything with it, then what is their response going to be to that? Their response to that is going to be put a more destructive person in power, so we feel forced to do it. And if we don't do it, then they just go ahead with their plan.
Right. That is my one concern that eventually, because right now they're floating around this idea of Trump signing the Insurrection Act. They've got conservatives cheering on ICE doing things that they're making look like they're literally killing citizens in Minneapolis, like that woman that they shot. And it's causing a greater divide between the left and the right, for one, but it's also going to cause like that. Governor, I think it is talking about bringing the National Guard in to protect from ICE. So then you got a little conflict there, but they want this conflict. They want this chaos. They want the riots. They want people to freak out and do stupid so they can continue to point and say that it's no longer safe in America. There's people with guns. There's all kinds of reasons to bring in all the agenda that they say is 2030. But if you get into the biodigital conversions and some of the stuff that they've already basically got in line with Palantir and these various technologies and these companies, they already have it all in place. They could pull 2030 at any moment, and they're prepared. That's why I think they're getting so cocky. That's why Trump can make all these promises and constantly float out carrot dangles and never deliver a damn thing. He can do that because he's pacified enough people. But no matter what, if maybe they do want us to freaking freak out and try to like take over the freaking government or some crap just so they could bring in their police state. They've got us in so many which ways. They've got AI working out every possibility that we could possibly do. It's very, I don't know if it's demoralizing. It's very defeating, though. It's very humbling to think that we need an act. We literally need an act of God. And if you don't believe in God, you better believe in an act of chaos that just happens for whatever reason. You better hope that something happens that takes out fucking CERN or something. I don't fucking know. Something devastating to the enemy.
And this is one of those things where I tell people, like, this is why we come back to this speech, give me liberty or give me death. Because every time you get into those, like, they have way more guns and munitions than us. That's no different than 1776. They had better weapons. They had better technologies. That's no different than when they founded this country. And to just sit idle because we know that they have those things is only going to get us further entrenched into our chains. We have to take our chains, rattle them, and then wrap them around the neck of these cannibal politicians and choke them out with it. Metaphorically speaking, of course. But, like, we have to acknowledge that they will do things, like you said, out of chaos comes order. That is the whole Freemason mantra. So they create an act of chaos. They give you the problem, then they provide the solution so that you love the solution that they provided to the problem that they've created, and they move the masses in that direction for that. If we wait all this time, my concern is now there is not a decade left on the plate. There's not a decade left to take this country back, to take the world back from these people. There's 4 years. And if we are still stuck on trying to teach people how they communicate and there's 4 years left, it is going to take an act of God to save us. I believe it. And I don't think that's something we should be ashamed of, because again, like, this is a spiritual war. And the fact of the matter is, God is stronger than them. They are stronger than us. But if we go to God, we become stronger than them. That is simple math to me. And just by my own experience, and maybe anecdotal, but by my own experience, I would not have been able to find the things that I have found, like stumbling into Lake Aluvernatalik. That would not have happened without divine intervention. That is my personal opinion, and people can feel free to disagree with it. But when you watch my original map games and you see how I was literally I was reminiscing about how I wanted to travel the world more in heaven because I didn't get to do it on earth. And then I stumble into this, and I don't know what to call it, but an answered prayer and a miracle. God put me on a warpath here, and I'm going to see it through to the best of my ability. I'm a limited person. I'm a man. I'm one guy. But if we were to take these ciphers and make people aware of them, at the very least, we could identify liars within our own government, correctly identify Freemasons as traitors. And then if we were to label Freemasons a terrorist organization, the way we do Hamas, MS-13, and the rest of it, suddenly there would be a problem. One legal method that I saw that was very interesting to me in the UK that's going on right now, that Freemasons are up in a tizzy about, there's a legislation saying that if you are a Freemason, you have to declare it to become a police officer or anything else. If you're an officer and you're part of a lodge or part of an organization that requires you to prioritize your brothers over anything else, you have to declare that. And if we were to do something like that in America, which we never would be able to do because our politicians are all Freemasons, but if we were to do something like that, suddenly your judges, your cops, your lawyers, all these people from the low to the high, they would have to start saying goodbye because they'd be exposed for who they are. And how do we make sure they're exposed for who they are? By putting their public photography through the mirror cipher, by checking their speeches for phonetic reversal, by looking to see if they're following the satanic practices that Freemasons are religiously adherent to. So that's why I say it's important that we're able to identify these people independent of government. That's the most important thing, because the government's never going to tell you the truth about this. They've spent your entire life, even if you're like 80 years old, they've spent your entire life lying to you about this.
That's why part of this is like, whenever I get overwhelmed by this kind of stuff, I start thinking that part of my channel, I might take it into the survivalist areas, getting people that have more knowledge than me. I'm not going to be the one teaching necessarily, but finding out people so that we can, like, you can learn how to tell the time of the day by the stars, like they used to be able to, or the sun, and use no technology whatsoever. Learn to be independent of technology. If we can do that, once again, then we'll be more prepared in case they pull what I think that they eventually will pull to some degree is a takedown of the grid, or what will appear to be a takedown of the grid, because they'll basically just make it all scary, take away our abilities while they have full control, and then change the banking system, change the money system, change the way of life, digital IDs, all that kind of stuff. I don't know how it's going to go. Those are some of the things that I float around in my mind, and I'm like, damn, we need to get back to being able to shut off all this shit if this shit really does hit the fan, and know that our fellow brothers and sisters at least have some tools to exist without it, and to maybe perhaps survive and thrive. But the other go ahead.
I definitely agree that it is good to be independent, to be aware of survival mechanisms. You should have a bug out bag, and you should be able to survive at least up to a month. You should have like a month's supply of food in case they shut the supply chains down and things of that nature. I'm not saying anything like adverse to that. I don't think that you're wrong at all. I think it's interesting that with digital ID, when we're talking about that, there was a country very recently, the name of which country it was is escaping me, but they had a whole group, the masses completely went out and protest against digital ID. So they took the banks and they shut down like 80% of people's access to money.
Yep.
And then they said, well, if you're not going to get the digital ID, then you can't access your money. So my biggest thing is people need to know how to have a method of purchasing power outside of bartering system outside of their established currency. Do not leave your money in the bank. Do not leave your money in the bank. Do not leave your money in the bank, because they will shut it off when they feel threatened or when they want to demand something of you. That would be a big, just not something like, I'm not going to be able to teach people how to start a fire without wood or like without a proper setup or anything, but I would be able to at least tell you that much. Like, you should be independent of banking at this point, because they've made it very clear that when they decide to come for people, one of the methods they will do that is by manipulating their access to that money, which most people, when you think about your life savings and when you think about what it means to, people who have retirement funds and things like that, like, do not leave that. Do not have anybody else put that where you have access to that at all times. Don't have some kind.
Once they do that, that's where we'll pretty much it'll be pretty much too late, because right now they do things like, now they're raising the prices of silver and gold, which it should have been up higher a long time ago. They're doing various things to do at least something to pacify various people. Not everybody bought into that, so they don't give a shit. But the people that have maybe the currency, the power, the guns, and then therefore the money to have the means to be able to fight back, they're pacified right now. But there's a lot of people that aren't going to give a shit about this enough, or they might even be like all like geeked out for a little bit, like, holy shit, this is crazy. And then they just give up because their paycheck's still coming in and they're comfy.
Yeah. No,
you take away their money though, and that's when they're gonna rebel. And they ain't taking away anybody's money until it's time for fucking the next phase. And that's the phase where it's like, we're trying to warn about, because that could come at really any time, likely within the next 4 years.
Yeah, I don't think there's a decade left before they make a move for a one world government. I don't know exactly the time frame, but they've made it clear from their own estimations that they want it by 2030. Right. Will they get it exactly on the dot 2030? I'm not going to say yes or no, but I would say that it's definitely a fair assumption to say that they're shooting for that goal.
Yeah, and if there's one thing about these assholes, is that they are freaking patient. They make long-term plans. They can change their plans because they have, like I said, man, they have supercomputers. They have AI. They can game plan something out. They can revert and change course if something didn't work out the way that they had intended. The thing that I want to talk a little bit about at some point, like with Sabrina and some of these people, is that I agree. Like I was talking, I think, to Sabrina and Chris of the 6-7 podcast. These guys do not all get along. Like it's like Game of fucking Thrones. Now they have an overriding goal that they can't deviate from, and the majority of these evil bastards will take out the lesser if necessary, to make sure that the overarching goals do happen. But there's always infighting. I think of it like Game of Thrones. These fools are always trying to get the upper hand on each other, and they want more. They're greedy. They're evil. So they really have no moral compass, no ethics when it comes down to it. They're like the mafia and the mob with loyalty, but some of them are just straight up psychopaths. So they really have no fucking boundaries, and they all know it. So psychopaths hanging out with other psychopaths, none of them trust each other. Everyone fucks everybody. And that's just the way it is. It's fucking a weird, crazy situation. So if we have a chance, is the idea that people like us, no matter what your belief is, have morals, have ethics, have a care. We want to help the children. We want to better this world. And that alone is our superpower. Let's not forget that.
Well, yeah, that's why I said, I think on our first one, like, I'm not going to say that I don't genuinely think I could rule the world. I don't genuinely think I could lead a country, but I can definitely tell you with utmost certainty that just based on the fact that I want to enlighten people and not enslave them, I could do a better job of running this country than the people in charge right now, just based on that metric, because I'm not actively trying to fuck everybody over into slavery to cannibalism.
Right. I think it's so ridiculous what they've done. It's like humiliation rituals. Like I think Biden was like a humiliation ritual. Trump is now in a humiliation ritual to a degree of MAGA and Q and the people that really thought that he was going to do like all these things that he's not doing, even though some of them are really always just making up excuses and saying that it is still happening no matter what, because they get paid for it and people get excited about it. But overall, it's just a demoralization of many people that are becoming black pilled, giving up hope, or just throwing it all away and then going back to trying to live a normal life, miserable because they believed in shit for years. Like that's when I got out of the cult that I got sucked into. It was so demoralizing, and I used the anger I had at Gene Decode in order to fuel me at times because I was so upset and I wasn't gonna let him just get away with doing the shit that he was doing without at least putting him in check to some degree. So whatever it takes to motivate you, and I've also found that with my like health situation, there were times where I was bedridden for so long at times, and it was hurting so much just to get up and move and get the joints going and to like do various moves to get flexibility back. And I would just get so pissed off. And I would, because I would be praying and God wouldn't be answering any prayers. So it's like, finally, like, fuck, it's it's up to me. And you've given me the tools, whatever that is. So I'm just going to do it. So people need to just find whatever motivation it is. We need to work together, but be prepared for fucking anything. These lunatics are demoralizing lots of people, but more are waking up. And so like, there's like this, it's just this weird thing about this race of consciousness versus the ideas probably controlled by AI. And then, like I said, somewhere in here, please, Lord, give us just an opening, just give us a window and to see if we can freaking turn the tide, throw a wrench into their machine, bust something up and fucking start doing something to end this practice of human trafficking. And Trump, I think it's like Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and Trump's acting like, you know, he wants to end the scourge of human trafficking. Human trafficking, ever since he came into the picture, has gone from like $150 billion to over $230 billion. Q and him and the White Hats, there's no such thing. It's all BS, and it's all built on propaganda that they create. And Trump's got a backing of propaganda that they create that is pretty phenomenal. It'll get you all excited. They use all this popular music and stuff like that to get you fired up. But when it comes down to it, it's up to us. That's the message. Like, it's up to us, and together
we have to take action.
Wrong.
And
we have to figure out some actions. Absolutely.
So, and just as a message, you know, a lot of people, you said something about Joe Biden and you felt like he was a humiliation ritual. You're right. Not in the sense that most people would think of it, though. He wasn't there just to taunt America. He was the 46th president because 4 + 6 is 10. That's God's number. And they were making a crack about God. About like, what if God's a senile old man? You know what I'm saying? It's the same reason why Donald Trump was 45 through 47, because that's 9 to 11. It's a reference about taking one and then skipping God's number. These are things that most people won't think in these terms because not a lot of people think in number games like that. And I understand the skepticism surrounding that. Fair enough. But that's generally my genuine belief on it, is that they do things like that, where they do these references with esoteric meaning behind them. My screen just shut off, so I turned it off for a minute, but we can talk about whatever topic you want to go for here for a second.
Yeah, well, I definitely had never thought of that 45 to 47 being a skipping of God's number. I hear jackasses like a Derek Johnson that you probably never heard of, don't need to know, but he tries to make it out to be like that's some kind of significance to the whole plan of law of war manual and 9/11 reference, as if he's going to disclose on 9/11 and all these different things.
It is a 9/11 reference, but it's not the kind of 9/11 reference where he's going to disclose anything. It's because it's like 9/11 being an esoteric ritual. 9/11 was to skip God's number, and it was about breaking down the masculine tower with the antenna and the feminine tower that had none and combining them into a one world tower. That was an esoteric ritual. It was a human sacrifice, and it was something they had planned 30 years in advance. And if you look on my channel, I can't pull it up right now because my screen is dumb and it shuts off every 8 hours, and apparently I left it on when I went to work. But I have a video called 9/11.
I've never heard this before. This is brand new to me. You talking about the significance of the number game with Biden and Trump's 45 to 47.
it's a theory of mine. It's not something like
Right.
I can say concrete that I have in stone, like this is exactly what it is. But I wouldn't be surprised if this was the case, because 9/11 is most certainly a very special number for them. And when they do sums of digits like that, that is something I've seen them do, like with text such and such to vote for Biden. If it was text 0, I don't know the exact numbers, but when you look at Kamala and Biden's number and you're supposed to text a vote and then you divide it by the year, it comes out to 666 repeating and things like that. You know, like it's too specific when it happens so frequently.
Right. Like, hey, you girl, it's almost everything has multiple meanings with these fools.
Yeah. And with 9/11 though, specifically, like there's people who will go into much greater detail about the specifics of the number of people who died and the positioning of the towers and the time frames in which they went down. There's a whole lot of different information to that aspect of it. I'm not going to tell you I'm familiar with all of it, but from my perspective, as somebody who practices phonetic reversal and tries to understand them from that angle, when you look at the teacher who was teaching the classroom just before the classroom that Bush was so famously reading the book to,
right?
That entire session was a phonetic reversal where she's leading children in a ritual saying, some say hate, some say God. And she's telling them to say, we hate God, in this phonetic reversal about steel kite must hit kite plane must hit steel. Is what they sound it out, say it slow, sound it out. And she was having them read these words in a specific pattern, and they were reading a ritual right before the planes hit the tower. Kite plane must hit steel. They have the kids preaching. Like, that is too specific.
Yeah, so a lot of us know about that in the conspiracy space, but you're saying it's a phonetic reversal. What's the phonetic reversal?
It's some say.
Go ahead, sorry.
It says some say some. Hear me, he'll say he'll. Hear me, we say we. Hear me, hate, say hate. Hear me, God, say God. And it's the phrase that she's having them repeat is kite plane hit steel. Plane must kite hit steel. Plane must. And I put it on my channel where you can kind of play it and play it back. But that to me is one of those things where when you catch them doing things like that on a day like 9/11 and all of the conspiracy surrounding 9/11, it is way too specific an action to a particular pattern of behavior for them to just chalk that up to be like, well, it's not actually devil worship. We were just memeing. No. It's not just memeing when you have Lil Nas X giving Satan a lap dance on MTV. And it's not just memeing when you got the president of the United States being present for children being run through a black mass. Like that's I don't know what to tell you. It's not just a coincidence. It's evidence of a pattern of behavior that's going on at the highest levels of the government that most people would never scrutinize because they don't know where to begin to scrutinize it.
I know, man. If we could just get somebody in that White House press conference that would actually ask these kinds of questions, and we could force it on air and get it onto the mainstream. Oh my gosh, man. It drives me nuts because it's so freaking obvious, man. Some of the stuff that we're doing here, but some of the stuff that has happened on these iconic dates like 9/11. And nothing's been done about it.
Yeah,
nothing's been done in a good way about it.
That's why you find me very frequently losing my shit on my channel, and I do apologize to my frequent listeners who are people who have seen me struggling with this, but I've given up enough of my life to this puzzle game, and I'm at a point now where something's got to give, something's got to change, because I know what direction the world is moving in if nothing acts on it. Force in motion will remain in motion unless otherwise acted against. You know what I'm saying? Unless we change, unless we the people come out and do something differently, these Masons will continue to manipulate the masses because most people are unaware of the ways that they don't see the strings, the subtleness of what these things are. And if we can make them aware of it, if we bring that enlightenment to them and we tell them why they're doing this before they can present them the big lie, before they can try to convince people to come and join their side, then at least when they do come to do that, people will understand it and they'll be able to maybe dodge that eternal hellfire. That's my goal. I want to save the kids. I found a lot of children. I did a investigation earlier today, just this morning, where I found there was a girl there. I found a bunch of Indians that are legitimately worshiping Shiva in a location on Google Maps that's false. As soon as my screen comes back up, I'll share it. But it's a false presentation of Russia that's in the middle of the ocean. And when you follow these people who are at this location, you find somebody called Shiva. And when you find this person called Shiva, she's got a picture of a little girl doing the arrows of Malak. And then you find a bunch of dudes sitting on a mat that are also doing the arrows of Malak. And they're wearing a black and white striped shirt. And before you know it, like I said, you got a whole network of these people out here that if we just taught people how to identify, we could then scrutinize them and crucify them. It's what it's going to come down to. I know that's not the kind of talk that YouTube is very fond of, but likewise, I'm not fond of pedophile politicians being allowed to puppeteer the public by taking our taxpayer money and then using it to worship the devil.
Amen to that.
You know?
I believe the same, man. Like, something has to be done. And it's crazy we live in a time where you're not even allowed to talk like that. And yet, I mean, like, we aren't. You can look at videos and Biscuits is, I think we played a video or whatnot, where you have literally, like, especially the Democrat politicians at one point calling for harm to be done to people, for people to be rising up and causing chaos. When does a protest need to be peaceful? That was Cuomo, that fucker. Say, why does a protest need to be peaceful? Those kinds of things. And yet we say stuff that we want to protect the children and fight back against pedophile monsters, and it becomes a problem. This world is sick.
It's a double standard.
Yep, I don't know where it's headed, but we do what we can do.
And what I would say to that is it's very clear where it's headed. It's headed in the direction of a one world government, a one world religion, and a one world economy. The question becomes, I don't know what we're going to do about it, but the people need to be presented that information in clear and concise manner, how these people lie to them, and then they need to make a decision what they want to do about it as an individual. If everybody stopped waiting for somebody else to do something, we'd all be in a better place.
Yeah.
You know, when I realized in 2015 that they weren't going to give us information about Pizzagate and all that, I basically lost faith in the process. I voted for Trump 3 times. I'll be open about that. I'm a registered Democrat because I believe in John F. Kennedy. Does that mean at this point I'm not voting next time? I'm not doing it. I'm not going to tell people to go and vote. I'm not going to tell people to vote because they have made a point to tell us they're on the side of the child trafficking cannibals. And
all of them.
Yeah, it's a matter of, and I tell you, here, we'll go over to Russia. Oh, I guess I have to go to the, we go first to level 900, and then we go over to, I zoomed in.
Yes, we need to end secret societies. We need to end the lobbyists and all the money that goes into politicians, APAC, all that kind of stuff. That should just not even be allowed, man. And then the whole idea that people in politics can be part of the stock market. You are literally creating the laws. We got a sitting president right now creating a Bitcoin treasury. These are conflicts of interest that should never be allowed. And those kinds of things should be easy for us to like push and get so many people behind. At least that. If you can't buy into this, good Lord, at least we could freaking fight back on certain scales and start to make some momentum where people become aware of this kind of stuff. Because this is disgusting.
I mean, this is one of those things where, like, again, this is, you see at the start of the video, it's a 13-second long clip. The devil's pointing at his picture, and then he goes, if you follow the video, 10 seconds, just for a very split second, it then flips, it mirrors the image, because they have to tell you what they're doing and how to do it. And this is one of the methods that they recruit, because if you notice, then they come and they have a conversation with you. This is at a location called Russia, but it's actually in the middle of the ocean, out over here. And if you notice this line right here, this is one of their connections to the Tower of Heaven that I've covered previously. But when you come in here and you look, and you start looking at the people who have posted photos here. You got Shiva Rajput, and you know, posting just a boat here at this random harbor here. This is a cube-shaped building. It's a grid pattern. And when you follow them, this is a black grid as his pants with the green sandals. Right. This is again a reference to Saturn and everlasting life, how he's walking on it. And then the devil worship. And then this is the room where I've talked about Natalia P. and how this is one of the buildings where they take children to be prostituted out. And if you notice all the colors, green, pink, blue, and yellow, like they keep showing up because these are this is how they signal. This girl could be very well talking about gymnastics, or it could be a reference to how they have these kids hang off of something before they drop off a cliff. This is the kind of shit where, again, it's a grid pattern, and it's blue and yellow up here, red and yellow here, so it's not hitting the green and pink inversion. But this is not normal to say the least. Having things like this, where they do this, where they have the little girls dancing like this is not normal. And people can say that I'm making too much of this, but this is it's one blue eye. And I've shown this one on my channel about how they hid shit here for people to find. Why this little line here is curved like this at a slant is because people who are Luciferians would notice that.
Which line?
You see this little grass slant right here?
Okay.
They literally put that there so that when they took the shot, you would notice it. And if you see it and then you reflect it at itself, it becomes a triangle with an all-seeing eye in it. And it's things like this where most people would never have thought to look for that. But people who are trained alchemists and are familiar with the process of breaking down an object and then recreating it into something new, they would be familiar with that because they're religiously bound to know about things like that. They don't get to be part of the club if they don't partake in this process. This is part of their initiation into the occult. And they don't just spell it out for people because part of it is they want you to be smart enough to figure it out. Otherwise, they don't think you're worthy enough to be one of them. But really, the truth of the matter is they don't just come out and tell people about this because they know most of the general public would put them to death if they really understood what was going on.
Right.
Now, I want to talk about, again, this kid looks uncomfortable. He's wearing a camouflage shirt. There's pedophile swirls on the peppermints. It's green and pink. There's no yellow and blue, but there's green and pink again. And it's when you start looking, you'll find like this is how they do it. And this one in particular, Shiva, this is a reference to Shiva, the dancer, and brings about destruction. And she's doing the arrows at a slant because this is about the arrows of Malak. She's wearing a black and white bracelet. Like this is a little girl being trafficked. I'm convinced of this. Just based on this image, because when you start taking the image, most people would not understand. They're going to look down here, see the checkerboard grid pattern, understand it. They're going to look at the floor and be like, this one's really clear. This one's all marked up. And they're going to see the dualities for what they are. And then they're going to go and put it in the mirror. And they're going to find that there's demonic faces in the mirror because this image was taken by somebody who understands alchemy, where this is now the capstone and this is now the eyeball. Or if you prefer, this is the eyeball down here, and you're supposed to flip the image up because now it's eye, mouth, or flip it and it becomes pyramid with an eyeball. This is the kind of thing where most people are not thinking about things in this term because why in the heck would you? And most people aren't even, I didn't even see this originally, but look, this is red, blue. Becomes red, blue. It's down to that level detail where they're doing a color inversion on her collar where most people aren't going to notice things like that. And that's how they get away with it, generally speaking. It's simple, just things like that, where now you've got these guys all sitting on a mat here. They're all doing peace signs, peace signs. He's wearing the black and white striped shirt, and he's got blue and yellow shoes with orange, but it's the Nike symbol, which is Saturn's ring. And this is a reference, again, to having sex with children in pursuit of life everlasting. I want to take it from the other side, actually, because sometimes when I take it from the left side and drag to the right, I'm not always able to get the full image because I've got two screens, and my mouse doesn't always want to play ball. But here, let's see. Boop. Now this one is a forfeit. You have to. It's in quarters. But I just want to clarify. Like, I don't care that this girl's Indian. I don't care that a lot of the children I have found are not of my race. That doesn't matter to me. I may have a lot of opinions that you may hear on my channel about race or politics or anything else. I want to make things something extremely and abundantly clear. No child deserves to be left in the hands of cannibal Luciferians. I don't care what their race, gender, their parents' politics. I don't give a shit about any of that. No child should be left in the hands of cannibal Luciferians, and we should do everything within our power to save them. Because in antediluvian times, if we were to look the other way for ritual human sacrifice, if you saw your neighbor killing a child and sacrificing them to Moloch and you did nothing,
Right.
you were set to be stoned beside them. You were just as guilty. And I think that is a standard that God may go back to on judgment. I don't know. This is why I tell people, be aware and understand what they are doing with your money, because they're telling you very clearly who they are and what they're doing. It's not always so obvious when you're not familiar with it, but I've only been doing this for 9 months, 10 months
Right.
now. You could very easily pick up a mirror, pick up their photos and put them in the mirror on Microsoft Paint. Phonetic reversal may be harder, but if you take the time and you listen slow and you really try to word it out, you will figure out phrases. And it starts just by hearing a word or two there, here and there, and then you'll start to be able to do full paragraphs, and just like learning any other language. These are real child traffickers. Absolutely why he's wearing the blue and yellow shirt with reverse text. Absolutely why it looks like he's got red in his eyes. It's not just because he's got a dark eyes. It's because he's doing that with intent. He's colored his photo up to look like that. These men are all involved in very nefarious shit, and they should all get put to death one day. But again, that's something where people don't understand it. So the chances are that right now, as it stands, they will continue to get away with this. But these are the types of people. Remember the cannibal shrine that I showed you?
Yeah, it's the freakiest shrine I've ever seen, maybe.
Yeah, these are the types of people who would attend a shrine like this. This is the kind of thing when we're talking about stuff like this is not a joke to them. This is a real practice that they believe in, and they are worshiping gods like Shawnee to that extent. They want to rule over us as our gods, and this is how they plan to do it. It's really important that people take the religious dogma of their enemies seriously, especially when it's concerning stuff as nefarious as this, because this is some of the sickest shit that you'll ever see, what these people are involved in. And not everybody's going to have the stomach for it, but nevertheless, we have to press forward because there are children at stake, and we can't just leave them to the hands of Luciferians. That would not look good on us on Judgment Day. That's my position as a Christian, and I will do anything within my power, bar sell my soul, to free these kids from the hands of Luciferians. The only thing I won't do is sell my soul. It's not mine to sell. So
it's a trip, man.
Yeah,
it's a burden once you learn more of this stuff. And yeah, there's someone saying, I hope I'm not putting out there anything that I'm not supposed to. They put this into the culture so much that people probably do it unaware, messing around with like the programs that I use for content creation. Sometimes Biscuits got me a little freaked out at one point. He's like, you might want to cut your like photos a little bit differently and freak, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, who knows what they're putting into these algorithms, these programs? I mean,
and you're right. It's one of those things where, and I was originally, when I first found this stuff, I got really nervous. Even in my own music, when I started finding phonetic reversals in my own music, I said, this was scary shit to me, because it's a revelation that there is a spiritual aspect to all of this that most people are just completely abysmally ignorant of. And I'm not saying that to be mean, but you've just been trained your whole life not to see it. So of course you're not going to see it. But if people started opening their minds to the idea and the possibility, they're going to start seeing that these things do very much exist, and that we are all going to have to pick a side one way or the other. And it's one of those things where I'm trying to get people to make. I'm not going to tell you which way to choose, but unlike these Luciferians, I'm going to give you the ability to make an informed decision. That's how I look at it. These people are going to lie to you until the day you die, or until the day that they recruit you. I'm going to sit here and try to explain to people just what's going on and why we should all take issue with it. Because this kind of thing where he hid this eyeball here, that didn't happen by accident. He did that with religious intent. And, you know, I know it's very difficult for people to get their heads around it, but it's not just one example. We have them doing this all over the place now. I mean, look at that eyeball that spawns right here at the top. What else is that supposed to be?
Right.
You know, this is a demon with horns.
Easily see the eyes there too.
Yeah, it's a demon with horns. They hid it here on purpose, and it's because they worship demons. This is the kind of religion that you're not going to learn about in school because they don't want you to. But this is what it results in. It results in them doing this kind of crazy shit where they worship Nephilims, where they come out here and they do color inversions about the parable of the blind man and the elephant, and they brag about demon worship because they believe that by worshiping these entities, they will ascend to godhood and the rest of us will either be dead or they're slaves. And that's not a world I want to live in. So you know, what can we do to avoid living in that world? There's only a few options. We have to expose them. And it's not even an option. What do we have to do to not live in this world? We have to expose them, and then we have to eliminate them. Because you cannot make peace with people like this. It's like Bill Cooper said. To do so would be your destruction.
Right.
That is my position. And I'm not
they'll adhere to no agreement. Their father is a father of lies.
Yeah.
They do whatever they can to maintain this kind of power. And this the crazy thing is that most people don't realize how prevalent this is. But this is what makes like the most money in the world.
Yeah.
Human trafficking, sacrifice, finding children, finding slaves, finding for whatever reason they use it for. There's many forms of human trafficking, but when it comes down to it, this is arguably probably what you would say is keeping them in power, being able to do these rituals and feed their gods and worship what wants to be worshipped, which I believe is the devil.
And I think it's one of those things where people forget, like, money is an illusion in a sense. Yes, it's very real. Yes, you interact with it in your every day-to-day life, but you have to understand the grand concept of money is so twisted. Think about it. They take your taxes, they print more money, they inflate your currency, and they devalue its value. Meanwhile, their pet pedophiles, their pet human traffickers get to go on world-class vacations where all they have to do is go around to these parks and every so often pick up a kid and then supply it to the cults.
Right.
And then they get to live a free and easy life. I've been offered this life. Do you understand? Like, I have been offered, being told that if I sacrifice one of my kids to Moloch, if I sacrifice my firstborn to Moloch, I can go and live this life where I don't have to worry about anything. I could just have everything provided for me. That's the sell. Because they go into poor countries like Thailand. They go into these poor countries that are fucking barely getting by, that where you see real shit where these people are their kids are starving because they can't afford to feed them. And then they go,
so they're just willing to sell their damn kid because
it's better to, like the stork, it's better to push one out of the nest to make sure the other two survive. Yeah, it's that kind of sick shit where they go in. And remember, the global economy is a farce. So all of those countries, by and large, are being kept poor with the intended purpose of them being breeding grounds for shit like this. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but when we look at Kitty Pink House and we look at this area where I've talked about this is an entire district in Thailand where the Freemasons very clearly go when they're on vacation, just like Jeffrey Epstein was for high-level Freemasons. This entire district in Thailand is someplace where these people vacation so that they can rape children at locations like this, where they can worship their false gods and where they can go out and stay at places like Cottage Pine. And I've talked about Megamines. I'm not going to get into too great detail on this episode because we've talked about it before, but this is 3 locations on the same street where this is where they would groom the kids. This is where the Freemasons would stay when they're on vacation. And then down the road, at the very end of the road, this is where they would come in and they would rape them. Like, it's all on the same road. Very convenient if you're a fucking child trafficking cannibal Freemason.
Right. For anybody that's just learning about Dean, I mean, obviously you can get to his Rumble channel, with the links below. I'll repeat it one more time, but there is a whole playlist. This is our 5th episode together. We got into this deeper in one of the other episodes, and when you just the fact that you're finding this stuff, man, is exposing it, and they've been changing things. But
Yeah, they moved this
so
entire
obvious, and like Biscuits was saying, and Sabrina's always saying, these are jobs. People have these jobs nonstop. They take these tourists to these locations to have sex with kids, and then give them the experience that they want to fucking have, or do the ritual that they want to have. Then they go and live a normal life. And these are people that are most likely not easily detectable in regular society. They're fulfilling their sinful pleasure and worshiping their satanic bullshit, and then they come and they live in this satanic world that is controlled. I mean, it's everything. You talk about the stock market, the bull market. Talk about Moloch. Talk about the worship of Baal
and Minmon. You know, like, yeah, you're right, absolutely. It's that kind of shit where, like, I just want to stress to people, like, when we have them, this is the kind of thing where when I say, like, it's not okay for Wat Sanok to put that up, it is equally not okay for the Roman Catholic Church to put a statue of Moloch up at the Colosseum. It's entirely inappropriate, and it's a signal about which gods they actually worship. Now, we've talked about Megaminds a lot, so I don't want to get too much into it, but, like, they are very, very fucking obvious about what they did. I covered this place so much they had to move, but, like, all Z instead of all C, Pan got a pedophilia on the board. And, like, we know about chickens and chicken loving from James Alphonsus, Easter for Ishtar. And that's something else I didn't say before. East Crater. How is a crater formed? A crater is formed by a fallen star. So when you're talking about East Crater, it is East Star. Ishtar made this crater, and it's a reference about Ishtar. It all comes back to Ishtar. And it's crazy how frequently you will find them doing that. So I don't, like I said, my solutions are limited. I am one man. My advice to everybody is find a methodology that will allow you to communicate these ciphers to your family, to your friends, to anybody who you care about, who you think you could have an impact in making them understand them and digest them, and then use them to say, okay, I have it. For me, it's Eminem and Proof. I wanted to get Eminem. I've been after Eminem for 10 years. If there are celebrities out there that you used to enjoy, that you used to participate in, that you used to listen to, you used to go to their films and watch their movies, whatever it is, check them through these ciphers. Look at them through this lens and see if you see what I see. And if you do, then you've correctly identified somebody who needs to be called out, and call them out. Because the more of us doing it, they're going to get very nervous.
Right, because they can't hide anywhere if we got more eyes looking into various things, or even your local area, your local politicians. Some of the shit that goes on in our local area, I bet we'd be shocked to just drive by various locations. Use Google Maps, look around your area, go downtown, check out. Like I want to go check out the Masonic Lodge and some of the stuff that's around that, and start putting some pieces together. I bet you'd see stuff easily, maybe even up on signage, or the way that they have crafted the building art. I bet you'd find all kinds of stuff nonstop. We live literally in a satanic world, whatever your faith is. If you have no faith, whatever, they have a faith, and their faith is satanic, and it's disgusting, and it's about human sacrifice and cannibalism and dark magic rituals, sex magic. It's disgusting.
So here's a thing. Right now, this is a Presbyterian church that I used to job coach at for a short period. This is like in my hometown, actually. And then this is a funeral home. And then this is the Mason Lodge right here at number 11 Church Street, right? Because it's got to be number 11. Why wouldn't it be number 11? And as you can tell, the whole thing is boarded up. And why is it boarded up? Because as Aleister Crowley taught, when they're summoning demons and such, they're not allowed to let light enter that room for 3 days' time. That is one of the things that they have to do if they want to summon these entities. They have to block the light out. And this is like actually my hometown. I'll tell you up front, I have come to this building. I have pissed on their porch. I have threatened to burn this building down before, because this is an affront to my God, and this is them promoting ritual human sacrifice of children in my hometown. And I am extremely suspicious over the fact that it is located directly next to a goddamn funeral home.
Right.
I think it's absolutely insane that this can just happen like this, and we're not going to raise an eyebrow about what they might be doing next to this funeral home. It's suspicious. And when you think about what Freemasons are involved in, most people aren't aware of why it's so suspicious. But I tell you, there's a lodge in every single town in the United States, damn near without exception. Get familiar with it. Get familiar with the members. Start making a list, because if the government can make a list of every single dissenter, then we can make a list of every single Freemason. And I guarantee you there's more of us than there are of them.
That's an idea. That is definitely an idea. Put some fear into them. Some of these people that are part of these Masonic lodges or whatever, they probably have no idea. Some of them probably actually think they're doing something in the name.
Most of them don't. Actually, there's a guy who was in the X Factor in Australia. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to make this clear. Most Freemasons are probably highly unaware of what's going on. Okay? They don't know. They've been taught that it's some gentleman's club to get away from the wife, and then da-da-da-da-da. There's some charity organization that you got all the cops and all the judges in the town involved in, and they don't understand at the higher level because most of them are useful idiots. Most of them don't understand that this is a recruiting ground and a breeding for the mentality of Luciferianism, and as you climb the ladder, it is an initiation into the mindset. That's why they say if you want to join a lodge, you have to believe in God. You don't have to believe in Jesus, but you have to believe in a higher power, because they believe that they all can become a higher power. One of the reasons why atheists are so offensive to Freemasons, and they are more offensive to Freemasons than they are to Christians in a lot of ways, is because Freemasons believe themselves to be gods. Atheists say, we don't believe in God. And the Freemasons take that as a personal attack. You know, not every Freemason, but the ones who are involved in this higher up shit where they're climbing the ladder and they're actually trying to ascend to godhood. Yeah, that is 100%. That's why they don't like atheists.
Right. And a lot of these funeral homes are owned by Freemasons or owned by families that are all in on participating in that. They probably get mucho money giving access to bodies. The one that's next to the funeral home, who knows what's going on there. Gray Area Monarch is one example of a guy that I've talked to. These morticians that were his neighbors that helped raise him in some ways to become what he became. They get used to the anatomy of a body. It's a dead body. They literally have access to dead bodies. They learn how to cut them. They learn what's inside them. They learn how it is to cut joints. They learn how to dismember. They learn to become desensitized about being around bodies. This stuff is disgusting. And they do it to children. They bring them to these kinds of locations. I'm not saying I know for a fact on this one. But I'm saying I'd bet that that's what's going on there. Not only are they abusing children in there, most likely, but they are doing things with bodies, and they have access to plenty of them.
Yeah, and that I've always said that I think it's suspicious that they're right next to the funeral home. And it's, again, like right on Church Street. They made a point to be on Church Street because, it's, again, people need to understand that Freemasonry is a religious institution. The main reason right now that the Freemasons are fighting that law I talked about, where they say that they have to declare themselves as Freemasons if they're part of the police in the UK, because it's a matter of you put your brothers before your duties as a police officer, right? The reason why they're so offended by this and what they're trying to stop it is by saying it's religious persecution. It's religious persecution, so you're not allowed to fucking have them declare themselves because they believe that they're allowed to have these oaths of silence and oaths of secrecy. Kennedy said that we should do away with secret societies and secret oaths and secret proceedings. And if any other religion in the world, whether it was Christianity, Islam, or Judaism, were to say that we want to have, well, maybe not Judaism, gauging by Shabbat synagogue, but if we wanted to have secret oaths and secret proceedings, and where we said that if you go against our oaths, we're allowed to kill you and rip out your tongue and do all this crazy shit that they swear to in these blood rituals, those religious organizations would not enjoy their First Amendment immunities because there's certain lines in the sand that you're not allowed to cross. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, I just want to, explain to people, like, there is an organized effort out here to conceal a very nefarious network of child trafficking and cannibalism, and a lot of people find Pizzagate and they go, "Oh, it's been debunked," and I go, "You may want to reassess that, because there's a real problem when your government is covering up for people who were involved with Jeffrey Epstein. You can't trust them. You shouldn't trust them. You shouldn't let them take your money. You shouldn't let them educate your children. You shouldn't let these people be involved with you as little as possible. You should try to fucking get your government out of your life as much as you can, because these people are involved in some of the most evil shit that has ever been on the surface of Earth. And it won't be too long now until it all comes to surface. The difference is they want to present a false light to say, we've created the problem of child trafficking, we've created the problem of human sacrifice, we're going to provide you a solution to it, or the illusion thereof. And that's what this apostate Christianity is going to look like, in my opinion. You know, I don't really know where to take it much more from here. I don't want to go and start breaking up our businesses in my hometown right this second, but that is something I've thought about doing.
Well, that's one thing that I will pose to people is to consider, like, don't get so involved that you get yourself right away caught up in something that they start gang stalking you, or it becomes a major problem for your family, depending on your situation. But I think you could even just go on Google Earth and just look around areas, like especially where the Masonic lodges are, hospitals, funeral homes, and just look what's around certain things. And I think you might get a little bit of a take on what's operating in your area. I guarantee you every single place has this cult operating in it to some degree. Even the smallest town that I freaking grew up in the mountains of Washington State has been taken over. The politics there has been taken over. They run a lot of drugs into that area. Who knows what else they are doing in that area now? But I think they're everywhere. I think that's the whole point, is that they have to have eyes everywhere. And then here pretty soon they will have AI. They have AI everywhere. They have surveillance everywhere. They have drones now. They have satellites. Everywhere is being monitored by these big brothers.
I'm sorry. Once I saw this censorship,
I know when you're looking at that, I was like, there it is. There's what the indicator is. See that tree had that blurred out area. These are some of the things that Dean comes across. And when you talk about, they create these puzzles for this cult to be able to find things that give homage, or however that word is, but they give worship to their god, which is Satan or Lucifer. These are the ways that they find. Oh my gosh, some of the stuff that I just found. See that really open area where you can kind of see through it? That is like a face like none other.
Yeah, it's intentional, and they do this where they think nobody's looking. I mean, this is my own hometown. Like, this is the kind of shit where, like, this is why I don't usually look at my own hometown, because now I'm angry and I know a Freemason who lives off of Ninham Road, and now I'm thinking about what I could do to fuck with that guy's house. And, you know, this is why I don't look at shit like this in my own hometown. I advise people, if you're going to look into it, if you're curious, if you have the self-control and you don't go for it. But if you're the kind of person who's going to be led into doing action, you may really want to take a breath and understand what you're getting yourself involved in and what you're going to find, because these people, they're not fucking kidding, and they're bragging about this everywhere they go. This is devil worship right next to a church. This is devil worship right across the street from the Freemason Lodge. And that's not an accident. It's because whoever's running this fucking lodge made sure that when Google took this image, they put this fucking splotch here so that could happen. You know, I'm not going to say that I'm going to follow all over Carmel, New York and look for it all over here. But that alone to me connects my town, my hometown, to this fucking cannibal cult that I have been now tracking for almost 10 months. Well, now 10 months straight. This has got to stop. This is absolutely fucking unacceptable. And I'll tell you right now, if the cops in my town, if I wasn't the first person that they would come knocking at my door looking for me, this fucking lodge would be on fire tonight. I'll be up front. That's how strongly I feel about this. This is how offensive something like that is, because that is not just, oh, look, it's the devil. That is, there are cannibals operating in my hometown eating the flesh of children. That's fucking unacceptable. I'm sorry.
I get it, man. Like, I think that's what people would be if they actually understood this to the depths of that. I think most people here are getting, but using some of these tools, plugging into what you're doing, when you're trying to convince people of this stuff, like I said, man, like if you can't think of a place to like, investigate, just investigate Google Earth in your own hometown and start looking into various sketchy locations. You'll even know some of the people, you'll know some of the businesses. It's the same thing like with the way that these lodges and stuff work with people that probably have no idea what happens at the top, and they probably be like, oh, it's not real, that's just what they see on the internet and all this kind of stuff. They always have stuff to run cover. It's just like corporations. They have lots of workers that work for a corporation that have no idea that the people at the top of all these major corporations are involved in this cult.
Yeah, I mean,
corporations make more money than the government. They are more powerful than the government.
Yeah,
they have sway over the politicians and the government. It's the cult.
And it's one of those things where, like, this is why it's paramount that people come to understand exactly the kind of problem that we're facing, that it is a spiritual manner of warfare, and that it is a great deception that needs to be unveiled to the public in a way that the public will not only understand it, but resist it as though their eternal souls depend on it. You got to resist this. Like, if you don't want America to be run by cannibals, you have to understand that these people are your enemies. That Freemasons are not just an innocent old man's club. And somebody said to me, well, like, I don't feel like the woman maybe deserved to die who got shot by ICE. And I said, you know what? We're at a point now where this is treason. Letting people do this kind of shit, and just goes from this kind of stuff to letting people invade your country and advocating that we let these immigrants go in here. These are enemy combatants. You have to start thinking of them in those terms, because those terms are never going to be spelled out for you, because your enemy is never going to tell you that they're declaring a war on you until it's too late for you to resist them. That is the kind of war you're facing. You have to start learning to think about things the way that the Freemasons do, because if you don't know your enemy, it's this basic art of war shit. You have to know your enemy if you want to win a war. You have to know them. You have to be very familiar, and you can't be familiar with Freemasons when everything that they tell you about Freemasonry is bullshit. That's why you can't trust them to teach it to you, because they've made oaths of silence. So get out there, familiarize yourself with the methods of communications that they're ciphering and the things that they believe, and then decide on your own intellectual authority whether or not you want those kinds of people being in charge of you and your family's future. Thank you.
Right. No, and I appreciate you every time you come on, man. We could go on forever. But people start learning these techniques. I know there's always you could show people like absolute proof these days, and there'll be cognitive dissonance. Know that, but know you have a community here that understands this stuff, understands you. When you're a parent in this time, I mean, you can't be too careful, but you don't want to live in fear at the same time. Being aware that it is this prevalent, you got to be on guard, and that will help keep you safe and your family safe. And that's what we hope. If we could come together a little bit more and keep working on some of these ideas we're talking about here, working in local areas, maybe being a little incognito about how we do it, but gathering some information, that's what we would be able to do in these smaller areas, would be able to point this stuff out to the point where more people in that area would raise hell in a good way. And we could become, I've always thought of it as like, if it happened in a couple of areas and it could be shown and replicated, that would take off.
And that's exactly right. And I think it comes back to the Marine logo and the Air Force logo, because I think those are very important. Semper Fi, everybody knows, is always faithful, but the Air Force logo is Semper Vigilance. We have to remain vigilant always. And if we're not properly scrutinizing our enemies' ciphered communications, then we're not being vigilant. I pray, I know we're getting ready to close up shop. I just pray that this has been an informative and an articulate video for everyone. We've covered some new stuff and some stuff that we've talked about previously. And, I have been having a very difficult time of it, but if anybody ever has any questions regarding these ciphers, how to replicate them or how to test other people on these ciphers, please do not be shy to reach out to me via comment on one of my videos. I will do my damnedest to get back to you.
Yeah, and don't stress yourself too much, but I've seen that Dean is very receptive in his comment section. So you go to his Rumble channel and you have questions, or you have something to look into. He's very open to being that. And hopefully people, like I said, it's just taking it into Paint or some of these easy programs where you can flip some of this stuff and start looking into it. You can start taking pictures in your local areas, or maybe looking at the pictures that have been uploaded, like on Google Earth in certain areas. Some of them just don't, they look like pictures where you're like, why is somebody posting that picture? That's what I was telling Dean when I first started, like, you know, having him on and looking into his work and stuff like that. I had seen these pictures of every once in a while just going on, you know, Google Earth or whatever it was, and I just like, why are people posting these? They look like weird pictures. They look strange, but they don't look like great. Like, you don't have to have like the greatest eye to take like a decent photo, and these photos don't seem like, they seem weird. The people would post them, and then I see that they're all freaking. It's like alchemy, and it's like the way that they did it was on purpose. And he starts flipping these things, and I'm like, that's what's going on there. But to the normal person, and I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist, so I already have a skeptical mind or a questionable mind as far as what's going on. What am I viewing? But most people would just look at it and be like, next, next. But there's something to it. Once you see it, you can't not see it. And that's the burden of carrying some of the information that Dean has. And I feel that from you, and I have empathy for you, because I know it's a lot when you see it nonstop, and to see how satanic this world is everywhere we look, and they keep trying to hush it up and don't talk about Epstein, don't talk about all the inversions, don't talk about all of abominations that we're seeing and the lack of justice, zero arrests, zero accountability in this damn country. Something has to be done. So
yeah, that something is the Second Amendment, and I'll say it one more time because I really do believe it. It's something where our country is at stake, our civilization, our children's futures. If we don't make an absolute stand to make sure the media does not allow the public to move off of Epstein, we have to make sure that they talk about this. If we allow them to move us off of Epstein and the cannibal cult that has been manipulating our economy longer than I've been alive, then we are never going to be a free people. And I'm an American. I am born a free man, and I will die a free man. I'm not going to allow these people to take me. I'm not going to allow these people to take my country. I'm going to fight back. I'm going to die fighting this, and I'm going to do whatever I have to make it happen. That's where I stand on it.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate your time and coming on again with us. We're going to continue to keep building this community out too. So we'll do the Booma streamers and the community building. We're doing a little bit more of that on the Telegram, I'll just say. But having you on and opening our minds to the way that you're able to break this down and show us a way to look at the world. It's a high responsibility. The more you learn, the higher your responsibility is. But you have a community here and people that are also working on trying to come up with solutions to this problem, but also just to be there for one another, because it is dark and heavy a lot of the time. So, man, if you ever need anything, man, and you're having a tough time, just reach out. And same for anybody here, you know, whether it's in the comment section, whether it's the Telegram chats, whether it's joining the Booma streamers and having conversation, even if you don't want to participate on, you know, the actual conversation that's happening with the group that's on the screen, you can communicate here in the live chat like a lot of you do. And I appreciate you being here, because it shows that this work is important, that you people are getting it, you have input, and I learned stuff when I'm reading the chat. You people are awesome. People of all walks of life and all different experiences and perspectives can come here and share the knowledge that you have, and we can do it together. And hopefully something great comes from this, and keep praying that God gives us that window of opportunity to where their little plans fall apart, and we can step up and save some of these kids and start actually bringing justice, and just go across all the lands of the earth.
I'm really grateful for you and your community, because, you know, I've been in a really bad spot. And people who watch my most recent content, they're probably not too pleased with me, and I understand that. But this is one of those things where I'm not a hero. I said it a lot. I've said that quite frequently on my channel. I'm just a guy, and I'm at my limit. And I apologize if I've said things that are crass, crude, or misdirected, because I do often likewise say, I want the blood of the deceiver, not the deceived. And I want to put that rage and that anger to whom it belongs, and that it belongs to the people who are doing these evil deeds, who are cannibalizing these children, and who are getting away with it. And sometimes I misplace that anger, and for that I do apologize. But I'm very grateful for everybody being here and for being patient with me. And we're going to do something about this, and we're going to save these kids.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you. I know it's tough. It's a heavy burden, but we're here for you. And we're glad that you're here for us. Your time is valuable and your teachings are there's no one else doing it like you, man. So keep it coming, and just know that we're here for you. I want to get you on one of these Booma streamers sometime. I'll give you a heads up if it's in a time that you can come on and talk to people. It's kind of fun getting into a group and having a conversation, answering questions in real time, the actual voices, and I think that would be really fun. And
Yeah, I would too.
And be like a little bit of help to you as well to just have some community.
I appreciate that, man. I would love to do that.
Awesome. Was there anything else you want to say before we close up?
God's will be done. We're gonna win this. that's how it goes.
Yeah, man. No, and we've said enough. And yeah, check out the rest of the work. Check into Dean's link tree down below to get to all of his platforms where he's at. If you want to support Dean, that would be appreciated. That's just me. He never asked me to say that. I'm just saying this man has done a lot to bring us the truth, and we appreciate you, brother. So God bless you all. We look forward to catching you on the next one, and peace.